Backstage culture is, can we relax? Everyone's sitting on their phones. I gotta tell you, I mean, it's mostly all business. People are running around trying to get shit done. People trying to just rest before a show. Dudes doing makeup. Let's be real. How many bands need an hour before the show to get in their stage gear and paint their faces up? I'm sure I've been to some rowdy backstage parties, but even then, the most crazy thing you'll see is maybe some people ripping some lines. And even then, no one is saying, hey, you have to do this drug, or you have to do this.
Or else you have to have sex with a front man or we're going to kill your families.
Right. Like, you must go under the stage and blow this man now.
Yeah. Greetings, friends. Welcome to episode 185 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, I am rejoined by my good friend Katy Irizarry, formerly of Season of Mist, now spearheading her very own music publicity empire with Suspiria PR. We spoke about why she decided to go solo. We celebrated some of her recent successes, and then things got spicy. We spoke about the recent allegations against Till Lindemann of Rammstein and got her take on that. We spoke about politics, we spoke about culture, we spoke about COVID, and a host of other incendiary topics, but I know my audience to be open-minded, and equally, the previous episode that I had with Katy is, to this day, my most downloaded of all time. I think we topped ourselves. That is going to be coming your way very, very shortly. Before we get to that, though, Greh are a band out of Germany. They specialize in death doom. Recently brought out their second EP, Reversion of the Repressed. I love it, which is why I believe that you, the Legion, will love it. And I'm going to play you one of my favorite songs off that EP right now. This is Greh with Final Sanctification.
They sing a new cry.
Final Sanctification by Greh off their new EP reversion of The Repressed. It's available right now on Bandcamp. It is criminally unsigned, but that should not prevent you from showing them some love and support, as I know many of you have done for the bands that I have featured in the first segment of the podcast over the course of the last couple of weeks and months. So 2 unsigned bands, I would say, keep sending me your stuff. If I like what I hear, it will almost definitely wind up on the show. I have heard something this week, and I'm not sure how long it's going to be before I'm able to play to you guys. But when I do, in my opinion, it is easily a contender for one of the top 10 releases of 2023. Very, very excited to share that with you. And again, that band is unsigned. My friends, if you're new to the podcast, make sure that you elbow drop the subscribe button on your platform of choice, be that YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple. I was about to say Amazon. Apple, Amazon, or wherever else you consume your podcasts from. Also, follow me on the socials. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I will not be on Threads for the foreseeable future. But if you truly want to show your love and support for the podcast, then also head over to the Into the Necrosphere Teespring store and buy yourself one of the many stylish and fashion-forward, yet also grim and necro options that you will find on there. Any ducats that I make on Teespring gets plowed straight back into the podcast, as you know. And then perhaps most importantly, I belong to what has been called the Illuminati of podcasting, the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. They consist of the charter members that include Brandon Legion, who brings you Horrorwolf 666 every Monday, yours truly, who casts hexes and slays poses every Tuesday on Into the Necrosphere, Mike Hill, Sensei Mike Hill, who delivers his long-running podcast, Everything Went Black, every Wednesday, Mike Scandado and Jeff Kashid, the Sheriff Mike Scandado and the Professor Jeff Kashid, join him every Thursday for my favorite podcast of the week, Necromaniacs, and then every Sunday, the Reverend Carl Haikara takes you on a journey into the occult, the arcane, the weird, and the esoteric. He occasionally does album deep dives. I am going to be on a future episode where we deep dive into the Paradise Lost discography, talk about every single record, pick our favorite songs off each. Really fun conversation, and he does a fantastic podcast, so make sure that you are checking that out. And then finally, my friends, stick around after my conversation with Katy, because there is a new Cryptopsy single out. The guys over at Metal Sucks have been flapping their gums about their favorite albums of the year so far. All of this will be rounded up for judgment on my weekly news rant, and we'll decide whether or not any of those cut the mustard. Right now, sit back and enjoy as I welcome back to the podcast my good friend, Katy Irizarry. And the reason I didn't do any sort of preamble is because I actually gave the game away a little bit on last week's episode, because I told people that we had an episode in the bag, and it was, a good 2 hours, very cordial. We spoke about a lot of interesting things, but then in the interim, a lot of other very exciting things, both spicy and otherwise, happened. And weirdly enough, it kind of feels like the timing is almost perfect for us to do this properly, because you have had 2 massive success stories with your new venture today. The Blackbraid feature in New York Times, and then Cloak on the cover of New Noise magazine.
Yeah, actually, you're right. This is really good timing for that.
I'm about to say, which is a hell of a way to kick off your post-Season of Mist career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Cloak thing actually was something I worked on at Season of Mist, and started working on it in March, and it just got confirmed like my last week or two while I was there at the label. So we finally got to announce it today, which is why it came out through Suspiria. Cloak isn't my client right now anymore. Obviously, they're with the label still. But hopefully their next record, maybe we'll be reunited. And Blackbraid, Blackbraid in the New York Times. That's probably one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing I've ever gotten in my career. So it's really exciting. And I mean, I think I told you, I don't remember. I can't announce it yet, but on July 21st, I'm actually going to be announcing the biggest client of my career.
Oh, wow. You did not tell me who that was. So you're definitely going to have to tell me offline.
Oh, I will.
Oh no, that sounds very exciting. But just to bring folks up to speed real quick, not to repeat stuff we've spoken about, but just for context, because we'll cover off a bunch of things and post that. But so you left Season of Mist in May. to kick off your own venture. The venture is Suspiria PR. Give us kind of a quick headline snapshot of, you know, how that came to be, you know, why you decided to make the change, and you know, why you decided to go out on your own rather than, you know, just jump to a different label.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of crazy. It's something always I wanted to eventually do, but I never really knew if it would be worthwhile because there's just so many really amazing independent publicists out there already. So I never really felt like there would be a need for me. It's a very saturated and competitive industry. And last summer, actually, before Suspiria even came together, the same exact week, I was hit up by Claudio Simonetti's Goblin. I work with their agent when I was at the label with Weed Eater and a couple of other bands. And he had this Goblin tour coming for Suspiria, hence the name of my company. And I was like, I can't turn this down. I'm a huge Simonetti fan, a huge Dario Argento fan. Like, that was just a dream come true. And literally days later, I also got hit up by Blackbraid, who was recommended from a very good friend of mine, Jeremy Saffer, who is a photographer and editor of Helper magazine. And I'm sure you have seen his photos, whether you realize it or not. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I love Blackbraid. I mean, this was a band I had discovered not too long before and really believed in. And I'm like, yeah, I just can't say no to this. And it's so perfect for me, this kind of project. So at that point, I launched Suspiria more of like a passion project and side hustle. But by the end of last year, I already had been working with Beyond the Gates and Inferno Festival in Norway as part of their delegate program. And at the end of the year in December, they wanted to work in a bigger capacity doing PR for their special experience events, not as much as the festival, which is kind of confusing. Like, I do PR for the festival, not really. It's more for the special events around the festival. Like, for example, the Black Metal Library exhibition that just launched in Oslo, or Beyond the Gates this year. There's going to be some cool stuff like wine tasting with Gaul and black metal landmark sightseeing and stuff. So I'm really promoting more of that. So by the end of last year, I had these clients, was also working on, unfortunately, a failed venue due to some serious hazards with the building, and it never came to fruition. But I'd also been working on a relaunch of a venue in St. Louis that didn't work out, but it was still another client of mine. So I was like, all right, you know, like, this is kind of going somewhere. And I really still had reservations. I mean, look, it's nice to have that steady label paycheck. It's nice to have health insurance because in America, you know, like, that's not a thing we have usually. So, and of course, the bands there were my life, and leaving them, you know, was really a difficult decision to make. But it just started to reach a point where it's like, I really can't manage both anymore. So Suspiria started to kind of just take on a life of its own. And I just was like, you know what? I just have to take this leap. You know, I just have to. And it's funny because I did explore going to another label at that time. One who actually I will be working with, which the client I'll be announcing is on. But I even started thinking about it. I'm like, is going to another label really, like, yeah, again, steady label paycheck, health insurance, great. But is that ultimately where I see myself in 10 years or what I really want to do? Like, no, this is what I want to do in 10 years. This is how I want to do things. So I just made the leap, and it really worked. It was scary, I'm not going to lie, you know, and I'm already at full capacity this summer. I'm already reunited with some season and miss bands such as Carnation. And there's a couple others I'm talking to that I'm going to possibly be working. In fact, our friend Runa, who you just interviewed, his band Ultimus, we may or may not be working together. We have a meeting next week. Yeah, I'll be talking to David Vincent next week just to see if it's going to work out for us to reconnect, because we always had a really good vibe together, and I helped that band a lot, and I'm happy that they appreciated my work. We'll see if that happens. I don't want to be like, yeah, I have that band, because still have a meeting to come and kind of suss it out, but I'm feeling really good. Oh, Pro Fanatica as well is another one that I've been reunited with as well. So,
and Pro Fanatica are just about to hit the road with some of my bros in Panzerfaust.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for that tour, but I'm so bummed because I found out that the stop near me is going to happen while I'm in Norway for Beyond the Gates, and I really wanted to see that tour. Both bands are incredible. I've actually never seen Pro Fanatica, so I'm like, oh, goddamn, but I have a feeling they'll be back on the road. They're road warriors, and they've got a great agent now behind them. But yeah, so it just all really came together. I talked to another label person, again, I don't want to reveal too much, yesterday, and I'm going to be taking on some of those labels clients, another really exciting extreme metal label that I'm a big fan of. So things are really taking off and moving. And I'm in a position now where I'm actually saying no, because I can't take on any more work, which is a good feeling to have.
So just because I don't know how it works, right? And I'm curious more than anything else. But so you mentioned being reunited with a couple of bands. Obviously, you brought up Ultimas. Are you in a position where, or are the bands on a label like Season of Mist in a position where they could essentially opt out of label PR and say, I want somebody else acting as my publicist? Label handles everything else, distribution, everything else like that. But in terms of publicity, that is handled by an external party. Are they allowed to do that?
I mean, they are. I don't know if they're allowed. I mean, well, to be fair, like I'm, being hired by them directly. The label's not funding me to do that. They never did hire out, which was unfortunate because even though, I held it down and I did a great job there was definitely projects that weren't necessarily my wheelhouse and I didn't quite know what to do with it. And because I was also at Season of Mist, their product manager, and I was also their social media manager, and also kind of wearing a lot of roles. Like I was just like a Swiss Army knife employee. I couldn't really put as much into it. And it would have been great to have that kind of support. So now it's just, the bands just, don't like change or just were really happy with the work I've done and just want to continue on with me. So I'm working with them directly. Like in the case Pro Fanatic, I'm being paid by their agent. So it's just kind of, the way it's working out. So I guess when it's not really the label's money, they can kind of just do what they want there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine that creates a pretty interesting dynamic. But to your point as well, it almost feels like it would be a missed opportunity for a lot of labels, especially smaller labels. Like, why bother trying to hire your own full-time PR person? Just put it into the contract that bands can essentially take their, maybe you even have a list of preferred suppliers, but you effectively say, okay, you can outsource your publicity to whoever you want it to be with. We're not going to interfere. We're not going to dictate what you need to do. These are our list of recommended people that you work with, but it's your call.
I agree with that. And I think it makes more sense because every publicist has different strengths. And for example, if someone came to me with like a power metal band, I genuinely wouldn't know what to do with that. But who would? John Freeman. And that's someone who I would say, I can't do this, but John Freeman can. At the label, there was a lot of these and bands I love personally as a fan, like the Devil's Trade, for example, which is like this dark doom folk band from Hungary. And it was really hard for me to break through because first of all, people see the name Season of Mist and just immediately assume this is black metal and won't even give it the time of day, regardless of how I try to pitch it and present it. But also, that's a whole untapped world that I don't necessarily have connections in. So another publicist might have been better to work that. They did eventually hire another publicist to work Voyager when they were in Eurovision, because again, that is just something so mainstream. And now I am getting more mainstream contacts because I have the time and energy to really start making those relationships. For example, with this woman, Elizabeth, who did the Blackbraid interview, but I didn't really have those contacts, and I still am building that side of my own media database. So again, there's certain projects that just make more sense for more people. And I think that is a little bit more what labels should do to succeed. And again, depending on your release schedule, it's really hard for one publicist to take on so much work if you have like 5 releases in 1 week.
Yeah, outsource, but exactly to your point, outsource to a specialist.
Yeah.
Don't bother trying to. Because it's at the end of the day, it's more sales for you, therefore more revenue for the label. Mm-hmm. You would assume more album sales would translate to more merch sales. It just makes sense all around.
Absolutely, and again, it's all about. I could send out a press release, and people are going to come to me, but at the same time, I need to have these relationships with people to really cut through when everyone's getting 100 press releases a day. And I don't always have those relationships in the right places. And, there's no shame in that because, again, each and every one of us have our own strengths and we complement each other in that way.
Yeah. Did Elizabeth take offense to when you addressed her on the email as to the failing New York Times?
I mean,
I'm only joking, of course.
I know.
You know the whole Trump thing, the failing New York Times.
Yes, I do. And trust
I was
me,
going to ask, how did that whole thing happen?
she's actually just a fan of Blackbraid and went to the show in New York, and we got connected that way. She met John Blackbraid at the New York show, and it all just kind of came together through there. And again, I'm only as good as my clients. If your band doesn't have what it takes, I can only do so much. So I really can't sit here and be like, I'm so great, because obviously this also would not have come to fruition if Blackbraid wasn't as strong of an artist as he is.
Yeah. So this, doing anything like this by yourself, I think you need a degree of hustle in you, but I mean, you definitely need an entrepreneurial spirit. Have you always had that in you, or is this kind of uncharted territory?
Absolutely. Ever since I was in high school, I was always involved with a million extracurriculars. And my senior year of high school, I don't think a lot of people realize this, before I'd even graduated, I got my first music industry gig writing for Metal Edge magazine, at the age of 17. And then I got my next internship at Sirius XM. And I always had this thing where it's like, look, I know maybe I'm not the smartest. Maybe I am not the most talented, but I'm going to make sure I work the fucking hardest. And that's what I do. And I've always had, this is actually kind of the first time in my entire life I've had one job. And even then, not really, because I fulfill multiple different roles in this job as a business owner and having to manage my own company as well as doing PR. But I've always had multiple jobs. I think the most I had was probably right before I started Season of Mist, where I was editor at Revolver. I was working part-time for John Freeman at Freeman Promotions doing tour press. I was also working at an LGB radio station in New York, doing production for them. I was producing the Eddie Trunk podcast. I was doing social media for Minus Head Records. I mean, I was just doing everything. And on top of that, also doing some freelance writing gigs here and there, and also some freelance production gigs. Mm-hmm. And then at Season of Mist, same thing. I mean, unfortunately, some of the work kind of dried up with places either shuttering or losing budget. But while I was at Season of Mist working there full time, at one point, I was doing my podcast through Warner, Last Words. I was still producing with Eddie Trunk. That was something I'd done for 10 years up until he went back to Sirius XM and they took everything in-house. And then I was also writing still, freelancing for Loudwire, Outburn Magazine. I feel like I'm missing something. Like I just have always just been a hustler. And I mean, a lot of it was for survival because, as a single woman, especially living in big cities up until now, I had to make a living wage, which unfortunately not really doable with just one full-time job, unfortunately, especially with the cost of living up north in cities like New York and Philadelphia. But
and I would assume as well, especially with what they would pay in the music industry, because so from my very, very limited exposure to it, I've told you, like, way back, I was desperate to get into the music industry. I would have loved to have worked in the music industry. I had an interesting conversation with somebody who was doing PR for a label that I shan't name, but I can tell you when we're not on air.
We have the real spicy discussions off the record.
Yeah. So she disclosed what her salary was, and I mean, it is absolutely shocking considering how much work she was doing. The other thing that she did say to me, which I thought was very interesting, and I'm curious to get your take on it. She said to me, Jackie, if you really love this music, don't make it your career. It was one of the most sobering things I've ever experienced, because I think I had kind of gotten to know her, not as well as I know you, but I'd gotten to know her well enough, and I'm actually still in contact with her. But she knew I genuinely was passionate about music, and I didn't really care so much about anything. I was writing for Chronicles of Chaos at the time, and I didn't care about anything other than just exposing music I like, talking to people I like, and it's exactly the same approach with the podcast. But she I think almost for that reason, wanting to help me preserve that feeling that I have for music, she's like, do not make this a career because you will come to hate it. It were her exact words.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. There's definitely been moments where the joy and the passion got sucked out of me. And, you know, it's even like I kind of told you, like it was hard for me to even keep up with your podcast for a little bit of a time.
Well, that's
Because
shameful, but you know, I will consider forgiving you in time. So,
I understand if you don't. I do. Yes, it is. It is very shameful. Because I just couldn't connect with music anymore and was just, you know, feeling really like not, just not the way I used to. Like, you know, like I mean, I think about the times when I got opportunities like my first job in the music industry, writing for Metal Edge, or getting to work with Eddie Trunk, and the excitement it brought me. And I couldn't feel that same excitement anymore. I felt dread and anxiety. And it did start to kind of ruin music for me a little bit. And that's why, too, I'm really glad I was able to leave when I did and do my own thing, because I really have started to get my passion back. And I did start to get catching up on your podcast and started really listening to more new music, which I also wasn't really doing, which is not like me. I'm always someone who's like, let me get on the Spotify artist radio and see what's up. Let me check out this post. Like there's this writer over at Metal Sucks Metal Injection who is phenomenal. Bree Halmstead / Jillian Dratchman, depending on which vertical she's writing on, who is just a black metal fanatic. And she, reading her articles, I'm always finding new music. But again, I wasn't for a while because I just so stagnated. And it does sometimes really test you as a fan and test your passion. And it's just about kind of making the changes you need to regain that passion. Yeah, it was like some dark times for a while there, but I'm really now feeling exactly how I used to feel about this job. And yeah, sure. Is it always good? No, there's hard days, but the hard days don't completely sink me or destroy me like they did.
well, I mean, I can tell you, I don't know whether I've ever told you the story, but I mean, you probably, without realizing it, you saved this podcast from me just giving up at about probably episode. It was like, I think it was early 20s. I had dinner with my friend Alec once, and I said to him, you know, I'm getting fed up of the toing and froing with record labels, getting people on the podcast. I said it's starting to feel like work, and I deal with enough things in my day job that frustrate me, that I don't want to have to get frustrated doing something that's supposed to be for fun. I was getting very frustrated with people I was dealing with at labels. There was one incident in particular where, you know, somebody, even though they knew it was a podcast, told me to email the questions to the band, and I was like, how in the fuck am I supposed to replay that to the audience? Am I gonna change my voice and read?
What is that? Okay.
Oh, again, I'll tell you offline what that was.
I can't wait.
So yeah, so I was pretty much ready to give up, and then you and I started talking, and I think it was you
Abysmal Dawn.
Abysmal Dawn. You set up Earth Rot, and that's sort of started getting things going again. It was like it was as much getting the guests as it was actually just dealing with somebody who was professional, and somebody who gave me hope that, hey, maybe in the industry I can speak to someone that I don't think is a fucking idiot. I don't find immensely frustrating. So that was a massive, I would have quit doing the podcast had it not been for that. And then of course, you know, episode 100, you know, that you what you did there kind of helped me achieve, at least come closer to the goal that I've always wanted to achieve, which, as I've said many times before on this podcast, is two things. One, I want to get to a place where I no longer have to work to get guests. I can reach out to somebody, and I have a reasonable expectation that they're gonna want to be on. I'm definitely there now. And then the other thing is I can move the needle for bands that I really like myself, like underground bands. The whole point, like I was talking to my friend Matt Prizzo about this offline today, and he was saying, he'd really enjoyed the Runa episode, and I said, like, it was one of the most fun episodes I've ever recorded. I said, but the most important thing about it is, for me, is it has now created an even bigger platform, because when his record comes out, he's got a band called Sick, which is awesome. When his band comes out, there's another band that I really like in Australia called Drugoth. I've just heard the new Drugoth record. It's fucking brilliant, but so few people know about the band. When that comes out, I can push that. And it was the same last year with Antichrist Imperium, like small, a band that, relatively speaking, is very underground, very cult. But, I was able to, I hope, at least drive, a quite significantly improved amount of interest towards their new record than they might otherwise have had. That's always been the goal with this. What can I do to put bands that I like, in a position where they can be noticed and they can be successful? But again, you were massively instrumental in making that happen. So thank you very much.
I mean, I didn't know that, and that really means a lot to me. It makes me extremely happy because at the same time, you were one of the reasons that have restored my faith in journalism. I mean, we talked about it on our last episode that we're kind of redoing now about how there's major publications.
The lost tapes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Major publications whose journalists do shady things, have, had some racial insensitivity towards Blackbraid, have just don't provide quality interviews to the point where bands write me and they're like, that was a horrible interview. And it's like, wow, that's a huge journalist and a huge publication. How does this person get through? I read things sometimes and I'm like, I wrote better than this when I was fucking 12 and I wasn't that great. Like, what is happening? And you to give such a breath of fresh air to hear someone who has this passion and does incredible interviews that I won't even know who the artist is, but I'm interested because you hold my attention from start to finish because you just know how to talk to people and bring out stuff in them that other people don't. And I've always had so much respect for you. And it also helps that you are not tied to the corporate machine because, again, a lot of these bigger websites are all about the clicks. So they're not going to support an underground artist. And it's funny because even for my bigger artists, oh, I want Rolling Stone. Oh, I want this. Those people are not going to buy your record. But you know who is going to buy your record? The people listening into the Necrosphere. Because you cultivated such a respected fan base of people who are going to tune in, trust what you say, and again, the same thing. They're not just going to cherry pick the episodes because they know the name of the band. They're going to listen to everything, and that's going to convert them to fans.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, that's been, and I hugely appreciate you saying all of that. It is. I mean, it's. I don't know if I can. I probably am blushing a little bit, but it's. I massively appreciate that. But like I said, that's always been the goal. Get to a place where 1 week I can have Runa Eriksson on, and then the next week I can have something completely obscure, and people are still going to tune in and listen. And then hopefully that band have if me having kind of built that platform, hopefully that next band gets the rub now as well. So as I said, bands like Drugoth, Sick, Quell. I mean the cool thing about it also.
As well.
100%. I mean, and the cool thing about it as well is we're starting to kind of create a community of bands around the Horsemen, which I think is even more exciting, because it's not just like the podcasters and stuff now. There seems to be these bands that kind of circle our orbit a little bit now. Either of direct friends, or people that have been guests multiple times on my podcast, have gone out on tour with Mike. Like, I would regard Cloak as a band that kind of moves into the Necrosphere orbit. Necrofire I would as well. And again, both of them this year have had records that, in my opinion, has the potential to take them to the next level, without a shadow of a doubt. They're both strong enough albums that they really could kind of elevate up a tier in terms of public recognition.
100%. I agree. And I mean, and I know for a fact those guys are dedicated listeners to your channels. Mike from Tombs, our buddy. I mean, we obviously already know that. But again, yeah, it just shows there are bands out there. Mike Hill's actually really funny because I'll suggest a band to him and he'll be like, what does Jackie think? Like, he needs to know what you think before he'll even take a listen.
Sensei Mike Hill.
Yeah,
did you text him that, by the way?
I did, actually. No, wait, I didn't. I actually forgot. This time I will. Last time we got on such a tangent that I totally forgot because my, yeah.
Well, okay, so let's start on the first spicy tangent. And one of the things that happened post our first conversation is a girl named, and I'm gonna, you can correct me on the timeline or the events if I'm wrong here. So a girl named Shelby Lynn comes out of the woodwork, and she accuses Till Lindemann, the vocalist for Rammstein. At first, it appears, as I've interpreted, of sexual assault, and then also calls him a pedophile, even though she's 24 years old. Then she turns around when the band threatened legal action. She says, no, it was never sexual assault. He never touched me. But I woke up with these bruises on my leg, and I think my drink was drugged. No, yeah, my drink was drugged. To which the Lithuanian police say, we tested you in the morning and you tested negative for any sort of drugs. There's also cell phone footage of somebody that has, or that somebody took, that suggests security removed you from the premises because you were drunk and behaving in a disorderly fashion. She sticks to her story, and the next thing you know, every fucking newspaper outlet, it's just going buck wild. Till Lindemann is a creep. Till Lindemann is a rapist. Blah blah blah. I mean, I saw tweets where people are saying there are hundreds, if not thousands, of women coming out of the woodwork with stories about Till, and I'm like, where are they? There was one other woman who's a YouTube vlogger.
The German girl, right?
Yeah, the German girl. She came out and said, I overheard something at a party that made me uncomfortable, so I left my friends behind and went home. So it's like, well, surely if you were that uncomfortable, you wouldn't go, listen, there's a sex pest on the loose. But right. You guys stay here and fed him off. I'm fucking off home.
That was like the decapitated story, if you recall, where the girl's like, I just left while my friend was being sexually assaulted by the band, got in my car, drove myself home, said goodbye to security, and didn't report it until I got pulled over for drunk driving and used that as a way to get out of it. And sure enough, what happened, it came out that everything this woman had documented was not only a lie, but that she also had a history of filing false police reports. And, and the same thing, it's like, I can understand as a woman being in unsafe situations, clamming up and not saving yourself, but I can never understand, because that's one thing where if my friend is in danger, that's when I'm going to go full on mama bear and start rolling motherfucking heads. So that's where it's like, your friend was in danger. You got safely out of the car. And instead of going to a security guard who was still there and even said they saw you leave the bus, or calling 911 right then and there and saying my friend is in danger, you just drove yourself home, left your friend behind to be sexually assaulted. Yeah. And that's what this kind of story with the German YouTuber anyway kind of rang to me. And again, like when these stories come out to me, especially as a woman, I always feel, yes, you should listen, but you should not jump to conclusions. Because again, as an American, as someone who has seen people be hurt by false accusations and rumors, and seeing how scary that can be, because even decapitated, it being proven, there are still people who believe it happened. And there's still venues that won't book them, and still people who won't cover them. And it has deeply affected their career. I always feel you need to wait until the facts come out before you pass judgment. But nobody did that in this situation. They all just said, we're going to drop them. Their rigging company dropped them. Till's publisher dropped them. Universal, I believe that they're on.
Well, Universal have said that they are freezing all publicity for the band.
Freezing all publicity and marketing. I mean, it's kind of, there's venues now that are canceling shows or refusing to book them. And again, it's like, if this really did happen and an investigation came forward and it came out this was really true, then yes. But to do it now before any of the facts come to light, when it's just a case of he said, she said, it's damaging. And it's also, and again, it's like, I understand wanting to believe victims, but you also have to keep in mind that if the tables are turned, it's actually very easily can be the man in the situation that's a victim of being falsely accused. And I was also, and I'm still deeply confused by this whole situation because of how much nonsense information has come out there. Do I think Till Lindemann is probably a creep? Sure. But that's not illegal. You're not doing anything wrong. You know what I mean? Like, and even the girl says something that to me already just eradicates anything else that she had accused, where she said that he pulled her under the stage. And apparently there are enough witnesses and people who have said this is true, that he will ask for a woman to come under the stage and give him a blowjob during one of the
service
songs.
Him.
Yes.
Right,
however, by all accounts, when you say no, you are free to go. Nothing is forced on you. You are asked and your consent is honored and respected. I see nothing wrong with that. He is honoring consent. Again, kind of creepy. Sure. Yeah. Would I say yes to that? You want to know something? If I was like 20, probably. But as a grown ass adult, no, thank you, sir. You know, I wouldn't even be going to that after party because mama needs to get to bed at a reasonable time and get her beauty sleep. But, you know, again, like I don't see, and it's weird to me too, where she was drugged and can't remember, but remembers all that so vividly.
Yeah. She remembers everything with perfect clarity, yet was too drugged up to remember. I mean, the thing for me, right, and this is partly why I wanted to talk to you about it as well, because I wanted a woman's perspective on it. Firstly, I think the thing that's so insidious about an accusation like that is to your point, it's how it sticks, right? So decapitated are forever tarnished with that. Till will forever be tarnished as this. I mean, Marilyn Manson, nothing came of the accusations hurled at him. He will forever be tarnished as a sexual predator, and that seems to me to be that seems to be the consequence of making that sort of accusation, is that no matter the presumption of innocence, none of that, as soon as sexual assault or grooming or anything like that is tied up into an accusation, that is it. Your reputation is in tatters. And it's absolutely vicious. I can't imagine, like even if you're a civilian and you're a single guy right now, you read all these stories about people that are not, people aren't dating anymore and guys aren't going up and talking to girls, and then I look at something like this and I go, well, I'm not surprised. Like if I were a single guy right now, you must be fucking shitting yourself.
Absolutely.
Thinking that if anybody has regret the morning after, or anything happens that you guys break up on bad terms, all of a sudden she says, oh, well, he assaulted me. That's the end of your career. End of your career. End of your reputation's done. You are your life is basically over, and there is nothing that you can do about it, because in the court of public opinion on social media, you will be tried and found wanting well before any kind of trial has taken place, without any evidence. I mean, there was zero evidence here. None,
Zero evidence whatsoever. And again, she even admitted herself that, I mean, she had to, because she's going off. I filed a police report. I did this, I did that. And then when the police come out in Lithuania and say, we tested this girl, we found zero evidence any of this happened, she came out negative for drugs. She was still trying to spin it like the drugs can leave your system very quickly and this, that, and whatever. There was even a video she posted to try to strengthen her story, that it really made her look like the jackass, where she was trying to say that there was a member of the crew, Joe Letts was his name, and that he was also being inappropriate with her. Yet in the video, it looked like he kept pushing her away.
I was about to say, it looks like he's the one who's saying, stop fucking humping my leg.
Yeah, like she's like all over him, and you see him looking more she looked very comfortable with throwing herself at him, and and he looked very uncomfortable and kept trying to kind of, even when she was talking to him, you could see he was doing the lean away from her, not into her. And I mean, I again look at this video and I'm like, this isn't helping you. Like I'm looking at this very objectively, because again, when this first came out, I was tuned in fully. I was making no judgment. I was prepared for the outcome, that it could turn out one of my favorite bands and artists is a sex predator. So I watched very closely. And as more information came out, just like with Decapitated, I had more questions than answers. And that's what people do too. They just kind of throw all this stuff out there to confuse the shit out of you. And I also know several people. There was this other woman named Alina who was accused of being like a Ghislaine Maxwell of the situation. Right?
Yeah, I saw that.
And I know people who actually know her personally and are really upset by those accusations as well. And while, again, hearsay, I don't know her personally, but knowing the people I know who do know her and their character, I am inclined to believe that this woman is also a victim of this situation. And
exactly. Who are you going to believe? People who whose judgment of somebody's character you can rely on, as some random fucking lunatic on the internet. Because I mean, right. I know exactly the video you're referring to. There was the other video that she did for TikTok where she was testing some fucking crap in a and
she looked unhinged in that video.
I mean, I was about to say, she looks genuinely disturbed.
Yeah,
she looks like she belongs in an insane asylum.
Right. And again, like, I don't want to think that way about someone if they really were a victim, but as more information comes out, I'm more inclined to believe you were not a victim of anything. And again, as the pieces come out and it looks like she was actually escorted out by security, to me it comes across as a disgruntled fan who did not get what she wanted and is now pissed off. I feel like too, people do these things because they want fame, they want money. Let's be real, a lawsuit will probably follow, and she's probably going to try to get tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars out of this. It's just, there's a lot of moving parts, and I've still seen not a single credible accusation or piece of evidence that Lindemann is any of what people say, other than potentially a little bit creepy.
A bit creepy.
But again, not a crime.
No, exactly. And I think, again, the egregious thing here, or the hypocrisy here, is the selective outrage, right? We all have read the dirt. We know what the Motley Crue guys admit to in their book. God only knows what, they did that didn't make it into the book. We all know everything that, the guys in Black Sabbath used to do backstage, Led Zeppelin. I mean, it's like the stuff of legend, what most of the bigger bands that everybody listens to, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, etc., used to get up to backstage. No eyes batted over that. But when it comes to Till Lindemann, an accusation is made. And the next thing you know, you've got Foreign Policy magazine with a article saying Rammstein is Germany's scary new normal. The band's continued popularity is a sign of the country's increasingly right-wing zeitgeist.
Which they're not at all either, and they've always been at the forefront of throwing people out of their shows for that shit.
I mean, he writes, this lunatic writes here, it's hard to overlook the way that the tumult and horror prompted by recent charges of sexual misconduct against German band Rammstein reflects the wild scenes that play out at its live performances. For nearly 30 years, the six-man industrial group hailing from East Germany has growled dark and ribald lyrics during stage shows of extravagant pyrotechnics, violent play acting, and ear-splitting instrumentals. In light of the accusation, the giant dildos that launch fireballs and standards of its repertoire, such as Pussy, are finally being examined in a much more exacting light. I mean, this is the kind of fucking nonsense that reminds me of the PMRC days. I mean, this is exactly a repeat of it.
It is. It absolutely is. And again, it's like Rammstein, because as a German band, they absolutely, especially in their earlier days, did attract people who felt, oh, I could be here. It's a free-for-all German band. I could promote neo-Nazism. And they were the first ones to get the fuck out of our shows if that's what you're here for. And that's a stance that they have maintained throughout the years. So to now, all of a sudden, one random accusation of being drugged, let me rephrase that, unfounded accusation about being drugged and harassed or molested or whatever, because again, the story kept changing as it kept coming out. All of a sudden, oh, they're Nazis. Oh, they're right wing. Oh, they're horrible. Oh, they're this. Like, it's just, what are you doing? I mean, you're right. It's like PMRC. It's like the satanic panic. There's just all of this unfounded fear and trying to villainize a band. I mean, I remember, who was it? Was it Richard? One of the other guys in the band came out with a statement that I thought
it was really, the drummer, Christian.
The drummer, yeah. It was, and I felt that statement was really strong and made a lot of sense to me. And again, like, if you felt, and I like you said, yeah, Till does his own thing with his parties. We're not really involved, but at the same time, we know security is over there, always there at any time. We know medical personnel is there at any time. We know you can leave anytime you want. You are never held prisoner or hostage. And again, these are things that people are sensationalizing, trying to make it like this is happening. And again, like, they're playing at Live Nation venues. There's obviously security everywhere and medical personnel. The fire department is also always there at Rammstein shows because of the pyrotechnics. There are always people there who will protect you and help you if you really are in danger. Also, too, the Shelby girl was collecting stories to try to prove her point. And really, pretty much none of these stories, first of all, they were all could have been sent by anyone because they were all like cropped out the names of whoever put them. So could have been her writing these statements herself. Who knows?
Which I believe, again, it most likely is. But anyway.
Right. And most of these stories were like, we were at the after party and Till started breaking things. Like, okay, but what did he do? That, you know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, he breaks things at after parties. That's just like some goofy rock star shit. That is not sexual predator shit. Like, it was just so stupid. I mean, or I just got a bad vibe, so I left. Like, again, none of this validates anything that's being said. And on the other hand, you had people like Alina collecting other stories from all these people with their names published and everything, videos that people made so that you could see and identify they are a real human person, photographic evidence. I was at that party. Did it get wild? Sure. But I did not see any thing happening that was not legal other than maybe some drugs. Like, you know, anyone having sex was consensual. Bottles were all sealed and you open it themselves. That's the other thing too. If this girl really was drugged, you're at an after party with all these people. Anyone could have done that. It does not mean it was a member of the band or their team. It could have just been some other weirdo who was backstage.
The madam, the official Rammstein madam.
The Rammstein madam. I mean, how do I get that job? I bet they pay well.
I mean, so you've been backstage far more than I've been. I've been backstage of pretty much a handful of times. The only thing I've ever seen is weed, booze, and that's it. I've never seen anything else. And my question was going to be like backstage culture as we just spoke about it now, you know, like the old days, complete and utter Sodom and Gomorrah hedonism. Is that culture, is that still as pervasive as it used to be?
Backstage culture is, can we relax? Everyone's sitting on their phones. I got to tell you, I mean, it's mostly all business. People running around trying to get shit done. People trying to just rest before a show. Dudes doing makeup. Let's be real. How many bands need an hour before the show to get in their stage gear and paint their faces up? I'm sure I've been to some rowdy backstage parties, but even then, you know, the most crazy thing you'll see is maybe some people ripping some lines. And even then, no one is saying, hey, you have to do this drug. You know, or you have to do this,
or else you have to have sex with the front man, or we're going to kill your families.
Right, like you must go under the stage and blow this man now.
Like,
there's nothing like that. You know, and again, like even I feel the groupie mentality is a thing of the past. Very rarely am I ever seeing a woman backstage who's there for that purpose. They're usually just there to hang, have some beers, talk shit. Like, it's very different than the picture that people paint. And again, I can meet like, and again, most of the after parties that even then get crazy, I don't mean like, oh my God, this is so crazy. I mean like people just getting a little rowdy, drinking, whatever. Don't even really take place at the venues. They're usually at another location. Like we went bar hopping or, you know, we went to an after party or like a after hour show or something. Like most of these dudes, most of these people, you know, not just dudes, are older. They have families. They just aren't into that shit anymore. And even the younger ones, how many of them are sober, vegan, care more about their fitness? I mean, let's be real. There's probably at this point more steroids backstage for some of these bands than there are actual drugs. Like, it's not really the way that people paint it out to be. And I've never been to a Rammstein backstage party. I will say a friend of mine did their makeup. I had worked a show for them when I was with John Freeman at Jones Beach in New York. And they hit up John Freeman and were like, we need a makeup artist. So I was like, it's my time to shine. I've got one. So I hired my friend Shannon and she did the band's makeup and said they were absolute gentlemen to her. Everyone was so respectful and sweet. And sure, there was like some flirtation, but it wasn't like gross. It was like
it wasn't crossing the line.
Exactly. It was like, oh, you're so beautiful, or oh, I love that you're like, you know, it wasn't anything. And it was a life-changing experience for her in a very positive way. And that's the other thing too. They were extremely strict with who got backstage and who didn't. Like even myself and Freeman, who were working it, were only allowed in certain confines and were not allowed at any point to interact with the band. The makeup artist, same thing, had to be escorted to and from and was not allowed to go anywhere other than where she was supposed to be. Same thing with the media. We had a room and we had to just bring them in one by one and then get them right the fuck out. So that's my take on it. It was extremely strict and extremely organized.
Yeah, no, it's as I said, I think where there's an incentive for people to behave in a certain way, or there's an incentive for people to throw certain accusations around because, you know, we very much live in an attention economy, right? And if you have attention on you on social media, you have attention on you on YouTube, you're gonna make money. And, you know, to your point with Shelby, she'll sue the band, the record label, or the band's management, or both will say, we can't be bothered with a hassle, you know, just give her some money and tell her to fuck off. She's going to have made money from, you know, spinning her yarn on the socials and on YouTube. And she's going to have made money from the settlement that she gets out of court. And so when that precedent is set, any psycho that comes out of the woodwork and go, I'm going to do it, there's going to be no consequences for me. I can throw it around, and if I get found out to have lied, I mean, would the person even be ashamed? I mean, or they would just turn around and go, "Oh no, it's a cover up." I mean, she's already said that about the Lithuanian police. The Lithuanian police don't follow through on any sexual assault charges. They have a reputation for it. You just continue playing the victim. Just continue to kind of hold the line, no matter how insane it is, and ultimately abscond with the money.
That's exactly what it is. And I mean, I actually have seen this unfold in real life, unfortunately, several years ago. I met this girl and I could already tell something wasn't quite right. But me being me, very sympathetic, and felt like, oh, she came out of an abusive marriage and she has to raise her kids on her own. And, maybe she's just a little misunderstood. And I think that was really the first time in my life that opened my eyes up to like, wow, like, because I think before that, I was probably more like, I'm inclined to just believe everyone, where I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You're telling stories about something that supposedly happened. I was physically there and know that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And when I didn't back her up, all of a sudden I was a sex trafficker and this and that. I mean, she accused many of our friends. She accused Attila. She accused Christos. She accused all of these people who she had consensual relationships with. They dumped her and then she lost it. And made this whole story because people started to question, how did every single guy you dated somehow abuse and rape you? Because now it's not making sense. Oh, they're in a sex trafficking, satanic sex cult. They're involved with the Illuminati. It got to the point where, I mean, it turns out this woman was very severely mentally ill. She started accusing her own parents of selling her to the bands. And I think that's when people finally, thankfully, stopped believing her, because it got scary for a while where it's like, if people start picking this up and believing her, there's a whole laundry list of people whose lives and careers are going to be ruined. But I mean, again, her accusations just got more and more crazy. And when people were like, why didn't you go to the police? Well, I did, and they didn't believe me. It's like, and then she'd find an article about one random cop in her hometown who was, convicted of like raping someone 20 years ago. And it's like, see, look, my whole police department is corrupt.
Yeah.
Like,
I was about to say, it's all a setup.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds.
No problem.
Bailey is making a racket at the door, so she demanded to be let in. But I mean, to your point around people throwing false accusations around, I don't know whether you know of the story of Eleanor Williams. So this happened in the UK. This woman was jailed in March of this year because she essentially said that she had been groomed by a gang of Asian sex traffickers, but the evidence then comes out that one of her friends, or she allowed, this is how fucking insane she is, she allowed one of her friends to film her hitting herself in the face with a hammer right before she went to the police station to say, look at me, I was physically abused, and I these men are to blame.
I mean, it's insane. It's insane. Well, I didn't hear about that, but I am going to look that up. This girl, thankfully, is not a public figure. And like I said, I mean, she went from having a mild support system to people finally like, wait, your parents sold you to the Illuminati? Okay, now we don't believe you anymore.
Well, here's the question. Did she meet Hunter Biden when she was there? Because that's how you know it's legit or not. If he were there, then you know it's spot on.
She didn't, but she did say that Joe Biden and Elon Musk stole her DNA and sold it to make the vaccines or something crazy, and that Elon Musk took her DNA because she's part alien. I mean, she's really unwell.
That's why the vaccine didn't work.
Yeah. So the Bidens were involved, actually. So maybe there's some merit to it.
Well, there you go. That's how they made it. They stole her DNA and then mixed it with some of Joe's ice cream and dribble.
Right, exactly. Maybe she's the one that left the cocaine in the White House.
Did you see that?
Oh, I did. And it has been, I mean, today, I forget which account it was. I think it might have been because I follow a lot of libertarian accounts. So one of the libertarian accounts I followed said something along the lines of like, the White House either is covering up for Hunter Biden, or there's like a severe cocaine problem happening, and it could be fucking anyone who was theirs, and that's why they don't know. And it's like, I mean, yeah, it has to be one of the two, because there's no way a place with that much security, cameras, and everything don't know whose
No
cocaine it
chance.
was.
And Hunter was there, or he was pictured there literally
Mhm.
hours after the supposed find. So I
Yes,
mean,
he
it's
was.
definitely his. I mean, I honestly, that anyone could even question that it's not his is to me fucking insane.
Again, I think it was another one. It might have been being a libertarian because I fucking love that account. Their memes, their tweets, everything are on point. And I think they were the ones that said something like, "You have to be a real piece of shit if a little bit of cocaine is found in the White House and the entire world universally says one word, Hunter."
Exactly.
Like, yeah, literally, everyone's like, "Oh, it's Hunter Biden's." And here's the thing: I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? You're an adult person. I don't care if you're in politics or not. You do cocaine. Do as thou wilt. I do not fucking care. But it's all the other stuff, the Russian collusion, the laptop scandal that was so severely covered up, and they're still trying to deny it, even though a shit ton of evidence has come out to prove that was all real. I mean, that's what bothers me. So to me, this is just adding more fuel to the fire. Because to be quite honest, I don't care about the cocaine so much. It's just everything else around it, where it is like, our security as a country is so compromised by this fucking family.
Yeah, by this complete nut. Well, by this fucking off the rails crack addict, and
Right.
his demented father.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I mean, so let's segue and talk a bit about that. So.
Yeah.
We spoke offline about the plea deal that Hunter has entered into following his indiscretions, and the question that I posed, and I posed to everyone listening: imagine if any one of us were to do the following: skip out on at least $1.2 million worth of tax, lie on a gun license application, are filmed high on crack, waving a pistol around naked, are then also filmed high off our face, filming ourselves driving 172 miles an hour.
While under the influence, yep.
While
All felonies, by the
under
way.
the influence. Well, yeah, I was about to say all felonies. Could you imagine just for those, and that ignores all of the other corruption, everything else that, again, there is now very significant evidence, including from 2 whistleblowers from the IRS that suggests that this guy, has used his dad's name to, extort money from foreign governments. His dad was in on it, etc. And we'll get to that in a second. But just those things we just mentioned now, if it were you or I or anyone listening to this podcast right now who's not part of the political elite, I would surmise we would be in prison for at least 10 to 15 years. At least.
Exactly what I said.
For the tax evasion alone, it would probably be 10 to 20 years.
Minimum of a decade, absolutely. And again, it's like he just gets a little slap on the wrist just to pay a fine, and that's that.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And I mean, you see this all the time with people of privilege, right? Like, for example, one of the Real Housewives, this is not because I'm a Real Housewives fan, I'm just a true crime fan, was caught in this severe Ponzi scheme where she defrauded, the worst of all, defrauded the elderly and the disabled, took advantage of them not having their facilities in order, and basically took all of their money and life savings as part of this like scheme that she had going. And she only got like 6 years for it. And I'm like, if you did that as a regular citizen, we would definitely be getting the maximum sentence.
Without a doubt.
So at least you have money, you have a little bit of fame, and especially if you have political ties. I mean, to this day, Jeffrey Epstein, we still have not been told one fucking name on his list, on his black book. We do not know a single one of his clients. And that just goes to show you how many people of power were pedophiles that were linked to the sex trafficking ring. Because if it were an average Joe like me or like you or one of the people listening, those names would be out there. But no, it's all people of power with money, and they're able to very easily cover it up and sweep it under the rug. And that's exactly what we're seeing play out with the Biden administration. And it's just getting so out of hand. It's scary because, again, it just shows like this country is just losing more and more power and credibility, and just making it easier and easier to invade, easier and easier. And I mean, let's be real, we are being invaded with the border crisis right now. We're steps away from turning into France. For those who don't know what's going on there, basically they had an open door policy taking in migrants and refugees. A couple weeks ago, or whenever it was, an Algerian kid who was a criminal and was attacking police was shot by the police, or killed by the police. I actually don't know the exact method. Yeah, was killed by the police. And now, predominantly, it's not French citizens who were, born in France and the people of France. It is predominantly migrants who came there that are now literally burning the entire country to the ground, having violent riots. I mean, they make the riots that happened here in Philadelphia 2 years ago look like nothing, look like child's play. And it's funny because the Polish MP has an extremely strong stance and tells people, if you are coming here illegally and you are trying to get to our border, we will shoot you, we will turn you away, we will jail you, you are not welcome here. But at the same time, when people are legally migrating in crisis, like refugees from Ukraine, they are taking them in. They are getting jobs. They are paying taxes. They are doing it through the proper channels. They are not just trying to get in through a border, say, take me in. And
they had taken, I'm referring back in my mind to a video that I saw that had come out prior to the Ukraine war. So this would have related to the conflict in Crimea. They had taken in 2 million Ukrainian refugees in Poland. So they do their share when it comes to taking people in. But again, to your point, and I think are very unfairly tarred as extreme right and blah, blah, blah. I don't think there's anything that's extreme right about saying we have concerns about the number of people that immigrate into our country without the appropriate checks and balances to ensure that they assimilate, that they are going to contribute to society in a productive fashion. Because, I mean, France is an interesting country when it comes to immigration. There genuinely is, and if I say too much, I'm going to speak out of turn about stuff that, that might compromise other things. Again, I can talk to you about this offline. But what I would say is there is an undercurrent of racism in that country. There's no
for sure.
I know of incidents where somebody has walked up to somebody to introduce himself in a work context, said to the person, or the first question the person asked is, where are you from? They said, I'm from Tunisia, and immediately they just turned around and they walked away. And somebody who I'm very, that I'm close to, but I'm on very good terms with, she's also told me some really harrowing stories about what it's like over there. So it's when we talk about this sort of stuff, it's not necessarily saying that the people that are going in are bad. What we're saying is the entire setup is dysfunctional. You're bringing in people without any kind of background checks, any sort of vetting whatsoever. There's probably the vast majority of people that are coming in are perfectly fine, but even when they're there, nothing is really being done to fully integrate them into society. So what you end up with are these slums and these ghettos, and we know that leads to the other social ills. And then what you get is these powder kegs that at the slightest provocation, they're ready to go. And I spoke about this briefly on my podcast last week on the news rant. I said, if I could give anyone any advice right now, if it's feasible for you to do so, get out of bigger cities, move out of bigger cities, because this is going to happen in the UK. It's going to definitely be happening in Germany. It's going to happen in the US. It's going to pop off everywhere. It's coming. COVID aggravated a lot of this, because COVID aggravated, I think, a lot of mental health issues that I think that check is coming, or that bill is going to be paid in the next couple of years. More. It's
already starting to be, yeah,
1,000%. But the government then also doesn't help by never ever playing a straight bat with us. And what I find amazing, and this has been a recurring theme from things I've said on the news rant, observations of mine of the metal scene. What I've never been able to understand is how so many supposedly rebellious free thinkers in the metal scene, how they fall hook, line, and sinker for what to me is just naked government propaganda. It was naked government propaganda that led to the lockdowns. It was naked government propaganda that said 2 weeks to stop the spread, and officially it only ended after 1,154 days, according to Zero Hedge. Naked propaganda that pushed things like the mask, the vaccine, one thing after the other, where they get caught out in obvious lies. somebody with, applying any sort of slight degree of logic in advance of it could have seen it's not right. But even in the aftermath, it's like it's proven to be complete and utter crap, and people still fall for it. And even now, they continue to fall for the same old shit. I mean, you were talking about how things are off the rails. The propaganda is in such insane overdrive that, like, you could almost see the machine awaken and kick into gear as soon as something comes in that they need to deal with, right? So the Hunter Biden laptop scandal comes out. They had Anna Navarro on The View, which is the worst show on the face of the earth.
Horrible show.
Saying that, basically sitting there close to tears, total play acting, close to tears, saying, actually, the Hunter Biden laptop story is a story about a father's love for his son. He will never give up on Hunter.
Oh my God. Yeah, because his own ass is on the line. Exactly. You know what I like? This is what people don't see. And again, they will do anything to spin it and twist it so it fits their agenda. And I am a very objective person. And I can absolutely see, like, I like to say I'm politically homeless, because even though I do find myself skewing a lot more right as I get older, and as, you know, the Liberal Party becomes
as
more,
you get more wealthy.
As
I accumulate wealth, I become increasingly right-wing.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. I don't have freaking wealth. I'm just trying to, like, but at the same time, the way that leftism is working is it's erasing the middle class. So you're either wealthy or you're poor, and there is no middle ground anymore. And that affects me and pushes me down. Even like my brother, I mean, he's a mechanic and he makes good money. He cannot do overtime, because if he does overtime, he actually ends up making less because the government takes more. I mean, it's ridiculous. And he's not a wealthy person either by any means. And he has money because he's single. He doesn't have children. And he, you know, spent, you know, the first, like, good part of his 20s living at home and saving every last penny while he had this job. So he has a nice nest egg, but by no means is he sitting there rolling in the fucking dough like the Biden family or the Obamas, who are tweeting from a yacht about how systemic racism affects them.
Tweeting from their seafront mansion in the Hamptons that climate change is going to kill us all, and the sea levels are going to rise and swallow us up.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, wow, you people are so affected, and yet you have more money than I will ever see in my life, more success than I'll ever see in my life. You have a yacht, you have multiple homes, mansions, all this stuff. And you're trying to say that you're, you know, being held back somehow. And so it's ridiculous. But for me, it's like the left, to me, is becoming more and more, and again, I don't use this word lightly, as other people do, more and more fascist with rules. I mean, Michigan just passed a law that if you use the wrong pronouns, it's a felony.
Yeah, I saw that actually.
Yeah, and it's
that is literal fascism.
Literal fascism, erasing free speech. Meanwhile, in Sweden, they just ruled you have every right to burn the Quran if you want, because that is free speech and free expression. And again, like, a lot of people want to throw around racism this, racism that. First of all, it's cultural. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with culture. The migrant crisis has to do with culture and people coming from these countries in poverty and violence and not being properly assimilated. That is an issue, like you and I just said, being put into slums and perpetuating poverty and having to resort to crime in order to survive. There's nothing to do with race. It all has to do with culture. Same thing with the Quran. That is not a race thing. That is a religious thing. And I would support that just as I would the Bible. You know, and people will say, oh yeah, burning a Bible, Christianity, but oh no, Islamophobia. And I believe we've actually talked about it before, whether on this podcast or just personally one-on-one. But it's just our country, I mean, is doing its damnedest to erase our basic constitutional rights, get rid of free speech, get rid of free expression, get rid of the biggest reason why we did not turn into an Australia-like country during the lockdowns and grab people who were unvaccinated and throw them into camps is because our citizens are armed, and the government knew they would not win that battle.
Yeah. Well, so in the UK, they're busy having and have now for, I think, some weeks, had a COVID inquiry where, you know, they're assessing the government's response to COVID. Was it strict enough, et cetera, et cetera. So Chris Whitty is the chief medical officer for England. He's basically like our Anthony Fauci. He said something that was very revealing on the 22nd of June, essentially saying that scientists, so his exact quote was, scientists would not call for lockdowns without ministers' intervention. And if you read the entire article, he's basically saying there would never have been a lockdown had it not been a political decision for the lockdown to take place. Now, yes, they based that on, these very, overblown models about how many people were going to die. But just reading that, you can't help but just be absolutely livid. I was talking to Paige about it, and I was like, I can't understand how more people aren't looking at that and absolutely losing their minds right now. Right. Because you think about everything that went along with that, the lies, the bullshit that went along with that, stay home, save lives. Just on the propaganda front, the amount of brainwashing and just total psyop crap that came from the mainstream media and from social media every single day, pumped into people's brains, that got people so wound up that we got to a point where, I'm sure you'll remember this, the LA Times had an article up saying that we should celebrate every time an unvaccinated person dies.
Yes.
I mean, yes. It's fucking sick. Imagine thinking like that about, like, I got vaccinated, but I didn't support the vaccine. I only got it so that I could go to South Africa. But, it never in my entire life, whether I've vehemently disagreed with somebody about something or not, have I ever said, you know what, when that person dies, we really should celebrate. Let's book a table at a fancy restaurant because I really feel like popping open a few bottles of champagne.
Right. And it's true. Like when it comes to the vaccines, I've shared my story on here before with me having some very severe side effects when I got mine and being lucky enough that I don't deal with that now. And it was not something significantly worse. But at the same time, even though I'm against the vaccines, when I see people being injured, my heart breaks into pieces because even though they took that willfully and willingly, I feel horrible that they were lied to and misled and brainwashed into taking something that ultimately hurt them, killed them, took their children away from them, completely destroyed their lives, their careers. I don't feel any joy by any means seeing that, by any means. I mean, perfect example would be the other day, Madonna, who I think is a complete fucking idiot. She was totally get vaccinated, blah, blah, blah. And she's a total extreme leftist lunatic, was found unresponsive. At no point was I like, woohoo, Madonna's, I felt terrible. Yeah. That is a mother. That is someone with children. How I feel about her and her opinions does not dictate how I feel about her humanity. The only time I'm celebrating is when someone even then, Jeffrey Epstein dying, there was no celebration because then that meant all of his secrets died with him and that the victims would not get the justice they deserved. So when he
committed suicide, very obviously.
Committed suicide
there was no foul play there whatsoever.
Nope. Yeah, exactly. He hung himself. Yeah.
Well, that also seemed to become very normalized during COVID, is celebrating when people died. And it was, celebrating when, a politician that they dislike dies. I mean, there were people celebrating, and I thought this was truly disgusting. There were people celebrating and posting all sorts of things about how great it is, couldn't happen to a better person. When Casey DeSantis said that she had breast cancer.
It was horrible.
And I thought that was absolutely disgraceful. How can you turn around and say, you're all about love and acceptance and tolerance, and a woman who has not done a single thing wrong, who is a mother of two young kids, gets breast cancer, and you say, great, couldn't happen to a better person. What kind of scumbag are you?
It's horrible. I mean, I actually went through something in back around Christmas. And a band, I don't even want to say the band name because I don't want to bring up any more trauma for the band for the front woman speaking her mind. Basically on Twitter, just retweeted something about Joan of Arc being a woman. Please stop trying to say Joan of Arc was a trans person or whatever it was. And had also liked a couple of tweets from the Gays Against Groomers account, which again is not an anti-gay or anti-trans account. It is just exposing your dick to kids account and saying this is what you're supposed to do when you're gay. Because that's also so damaging. And again, the way that people are oh yeah, it's normal for people to walk around naked and wag their dicks around at Pride when children are present. No, it is not. You should not be doing that in any environment where children are present.
I had this exact same conversation with Paige when we were in London earlier this week, and I said, we were walking, and I said to her, can you imagine if I were to just whip my trousers off right now and start walking around in front of all the kids here? I said, firstly, the cops would arrest me and throw me in jail straight away. I said, now, how on earth am I to stand idly by and smile and laugh gleefully when this is somehow sold to me as an essential part of the gay experience? It's not. I know several gay people. Most of them think it's insane.
Right. And they are now. There's all these gay influencers coming out like, what the hell just happened? Why are you doing this? Even the chant. I used to go to Pride in New York almost every year. And this is long before Obama made same-sex marriage legal. And it was still a right that gay people were fighting for. And they still very much were marginalized at that time, unlike now, where they have every single right that I have and that you have. And these were times when I would go, and the chant that they had were, we're here, we're queer, we won't disappear. And that really was more about the violence that their community faced and gay people being murdered, like Matthew Shepard. And it was really about fighting for acceptance and tolerance and equality and standing up with pride. And this year, they came out and changed the chant to, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. And then had the nerve to be like, we've always said that. Like, no.
I was about to say, and NBC tried to push that angle and say, yeah, this is what we've always said.
Which, again, I've been there. I know for a fact that is never what they stood for. And if it was, I would not have gone to Pride all of those years. And they took a chant that was so empowering and really had true meaning behind it and made it into something so disgusting and something so harmful to children. And they think it's funny. And again, it's like, it's not. And you're actually no longer fighting for equality. You are now giving people a case to take those rights away and harming the gay community and harming the trans community by coming out and doing these things and willfully like, oh, we're coming for your children, like we're gonna take our dicks out, we know there's kids here, we don't care, like what is happening? And again, to say, oh, you're not allowed to do that, you're a homophobe, you're a transphobe, you must die. But which actually kind of takes me back to the time on Twitter back in December where this woman in the band was liking the Gays Against Groomers account and stuff, and all of a sudden I see the band name trending on Twitter and I'm like, oh, maybe they put out some new music or something, let's see what's up. And I see, as a female in the band, a mother who just had a child being attacked and threatened, being told they hope her baby dies, being told that they hope she dies, being told that they, like, horrible, horrible things just because of some tweets that she liked that were against pedophilia and because of a statement that she didn't even make herself, she retweeted about Joan of Arc being a woman. And what really bothered me was, number one, 90% of the people attacking her were not even women, they were men. And the other thing that bothered me was not a single fucking person in our music industry stood up. So I stood up. I fucking stood up because I'm not afraid. At the end of the day, I'm not afraid of being canceled. This podcast, you know what? There's probably gonna be bands that see this and say, I'm not gonna work with you. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not here to work with you either. The bands that I do want to work with and the bands I have relationships with know how I feel. And that's why they want to work with me. I am the publicist that I want people to call when you do get into that kind of trouble for saying something like that, because I will have your back and I will fight on the front lines with you. I will not be too afraid of what people will think of me. And I stood up for her. And next thing, I'm spending the next 2 days and I don't really care because, again, I'm like, who the fuck are these people? Being sent death threats, being told I should be raped. I mean, being told some of the most horrible things just for standing up for a woman who had an opinion that I agree with. And again, the woman who was being threatened is a mother, is someone who who was standing up against pedophilia, it was so unhinged. And and I know and want to know something? After I made those tweets, there were several people in our world, a lot of them, who privately messaged me thanking me for what I said and were like, I feel the same way, but I'm too afraid to say it. And there's a silent majority is real. And again, it's like, I will be the voice and I will be there to defend these people who have the unpopular opinion, because if I don't, who else is going to? It's just me and you versus the world at this point.
Well, you can see the silent majority is finally starting to mobilize. I mean, you saw what happened with Bud Light. You saw what happened with Target. I personally think Ben and Jerry's they're itching for a Bud Lighting after that fucking ridiculous post they put up about
their stock just dropped like $2 million.
Good, great. Done, dead. I mean, I would never. I'm not even American. I would never in my life support Ben and Jerry's again after that. After that tweet.
You want to know something? Their ice cream's not even that good. Like, I can't eat actual dairy ice cream because I have an allergy.
I'm not gonna lie. The ice cream is very good. It's a hardship. I'm sacrificing one for the cause here.
I can't actually eat their ice cream, their regular ice cream, but I've had their non-dairy ice cream and always felt it tasted off. Whereas, and again, I'm not vegan. I just have an allergy. But yet I will eat like the So Delicious brand, and it is so delicious, let me tell you. So I'm like, I can't even do vegan ice cream, right? Same thing with Bud Light. I'm like, you know what? Seriously, why am I drinking this shit when there's plenty of excellent American-made craft beer out there right now? At least as an American, like, it's shit beer. Like, sure.
I was about to say there's a great craft scene in the UK as well. Fantastic.
Everywhere, really. Yeah.
So. Yeah. But I mean, when we were just circling back to the talk about COVID. So, if people wonder why, we're still talking about it, they go, "Oh, the pandemic is over." The reason why I think it's important to still talk about it, and at the very least, try and reach some sort of consensus over what happened and what was lies versus what was bullshit, is because if we don't, then the government's ability to pull this kind of bullshit on us again just increases exponentially. I mean, I already don't really have much hope, but I would certainly hope that at least my friendship circle, my a wider group of people in my orbit, you might say, would be less susceptible to this sort of thing, because it's coming without a doubt. They've already, every so often you see like, oh, well, we really need to be prepared for the next pandemic, and then on top of that, obviously, there's all this climate change garbage. Now, one of the things that they've done extremely well, they did it, in a microcosm with the vaccine. If you weren't pro-vaccine, then you were essentially Alex Jones's right-hand man. You were a Nazi. You were the worst. You were the worst of the worst. Right. What they've done with climate change is they've turned it into such a religion that they've co-opted the phrase Holocaust denier, and you'll hear them using it frequently. They'll keep talking about climate denier, climate change denier. And whether or not you believe that the Earth should be taken better care of, whether or not you believe that climate change is real, but that the interventions that they're proposing are insane, that's irrelevant. If you don't toe exactly the line that they say, you are the worst of the worst, far right, Nazi, racist. I mean, they tar everything at you. I mean, Trudeau is a great example of this as somebody who essentially, it seems that whenever he dislikes somebody, he's got like this little book of damning accusations that he can throw at somebody. Well, today that Jackie is transphobic, he's homophobic, he's racist, and he's a climate change denier. Right.
And don't forget, you're also an anti-vaxxer.
Oh yeah, anti-vaxxer as well, a vax denier. But so without a shadow of a doubt, all this is there's a couple of purposes for the whole climate change thing. One is wealth transfer, like as an example. There have been in Scotland, they have taken down 14 million trees to make way for wind turbines. Now, from my understanding is if we want to get to a net zero carbon future, surely we should be planting more trees because trees absorb the carbon.
This is
why would we cut down 14 million trees? I can tell you why. It's because whoever is responsible for building and maintaining those fucking disgusting wind turbines almost certainly is sharing some of the wealth with the political class. And this is the one thing again that I this is not just an observation of people in the metal scenes, people generally. What I've never been able to get my head around is it doesn't matter whether you're left or right. Why can't you just look at something objectively and go, this doesn't make sense to me? It doesn't make sense to me that there is virtually not a single politician in the United Kingdom or in the US that is living or that has a net worth aligned to the amount of money that they would have been earning over the course of time that they've worked in politics. Nancy Pelosi worth over 100 million. There's a really interesting Twitter account called Unusual Whales. He tracks the trading habits of politicians. I mean, I think something like 70% of the U.S. Congress outperformed the S&P in 2022 by double-digit amounts. We're talking like 30-40%. They're the most successful traders in all of the US, and people don't think there's something wrong with that. And then on top of that, they're quick. They even though they can see it. Like you talk to the average person 101, you'll say, yeah, no, they're terrible, they're all corrupt. But then they come up with something insane like, well, if you don't get the vax, you're not allowed to go to work, or like this Peter Hotez shambles. Everything Robert F. Kennedy is saying is wrong, and Joe Rogan is scum. But by the way, I refuse to debate him. And if anyone says anything, then they're bullying me. Then they go, yeah, Peter Hotez, fuck that Joe Rogan guy. Like, how are you so easily led? What? Like, I mean, maybe this is my own, like my own issue. Like, what I struggle with understanding is how are human beings so easily led by the nose? And what can we do to try and prevent that? Because if we don't, we will, by 2030, be seeing, people's cars taken away from them. No more, you'll be eating insects and fucking bugs. Like everything that we hold dear. Like I thought it was so hysterical when that fucking numbskull from Gojira was talking about climate change the other day. And I said it on the news rant. I was like, if the idiotic policies that your friends in Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion, if any of that comes to pass, mate, your career is over. There's going to be no more metal. There'll be no more tours. There'll be no more live shows.
You're never going to be able to go in a high capacity vehicle or a plane or use any of the services that you need as a touring musician. Vinyl is a petrol based product. I mean, people don't realize this. And again, it's looking at everything objectively, like you said, with planting trees. It is proven that when you plant trees, this is going to help increase the carbon footprint or whatever, or decrease it. I really don't know.
It'll reduce the amount of carbon that's floating in the air.
I can't keep up with the jargon, but exactly. And I'm like, okay, so you guys are saying that we need to get rid of plastic straws and plastic bags and need to replace it by taking down more trees and making everything paper. Where's the logic there? Same thing like in New York. Every summer, New York is like, we need to conserve energy. There's an energy crisis. So you guys really shouldn't use your air conditioner, even though it's like 100 degrees Fahrenheit out. We don't want you to be comfortable. Yet they have no problem funding all this money into all of this energy to keep Times Square lit up like a Christmas tree with all of these lights and flashy billboards that they're making tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a day off of. Instead of saying, let's do our part as a city and let's cut costs where we can, and let's start planting more trees and getting rid of this useless lit up energy, nonsense we're using energy for. It makes no sense. The people who are sitting here saying, oh, you all need electric cars are flying in their private jets to go and on their private vacations.
Well, again, so a lot of these policies are coming from the very same people who fly to Davos in their private jets.
Right.
The published number around the number of private jets that landed in Davos this year is 1,040. And it says releasing 4 times the average weekly CO2 emissions from this highly polluting mode of travel. So they private jets release 4 times the number of emissions, or the amount of emissions that a standard passenger airline does, aircraft does. One of the flights, or the shortest flight recorded, was only 21 kilometers. So about 10 miles they flew. Like,
again, useless. There's no point in that. You could take a freaking boat and use less emissions. You could take a car or
this is the point, though. How does anyone take these people seriously? How does somebody look at John Kerry and say, that's a serious man, I should take him seriously?
Right.
The guy literally said, they asked him, why do you take us, why do you do so many, miles on a private jet? He had done something in a year, like 180,000 miles on his private jet. He said, because that's the only way people like me can fly.
Right. Again. And it's like, not really, dude. You could fucking go on a commercial airline like the rest of us and, lower your carbon footprint or whatever. And it's like, again, I look and see, I'm all about lead by example. So if you are not actually doing what you're telling me to do, why am I going to take that seriously? And that's what more people need to do. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I do not know the answers to any of this. I really don't. I'm not a freaking expert. I have no idea. But what I do know is that if I don't know, you don't know. So for other people to sit here and tell me, oh yeah, this is what's best and whatever, you don't know that either. But then when I take a step back and look at the example being set, of course I'm going to question it, and I'm going to be more inclined to not follow what I'm being told until the people who are telling me to do that follow it themselves. It's not about knowing for a fact that this is or this isn't. It's just about looking at everything's in front of me, the whole big picture, and taking that in and making my decisions based on that. And that's what more people need to do. You need to stop getting into your own head and thinking you know best and you know everything. Same thing with the vaccines. I did not know if the vaccines were safe or not. But when I'm starting to see people come out, say that they're unsafe and being threatened, being silenced, being told they're not allowed to, and those people actually being experts and not, whereas I'm not, I start questioning, what if they are right? Then when I start hearing stories, having my own experience and other women going through what I went through and it being completely ignored, or people saying, maybe this is a thing, but we don't really know. It doesn't really affect all women. Like, really? Because I know a sick majority of women who were affected the same way I was. I know not one, and again, this was on our Lost episode, so I apologize for repeating myself, but I know 2 individuals who got Guillain-Barré right after getting vaccinated. And to me, that's not a coincidence that I actually personally know 2 people who were affected that severely after taking the vaccine. I am going with what I see in front of me. I am not going with what I'm just being told and blindly believing it. And at the same time, do I know for sure? I think now, yeah, because now there are things coming. I mean, just recently, the CDC very quietly got rid of all recommendations for booster shots. They didn't say why, but got rid of it. And to me, it's like something is suspicious after telling everyone, get a booster, get 5 boosters, get this many boosters, get this, get that. So all of a sudden being like, oh, no, don't do that anymore. Something is wrong. And that's what more people need to do. Stop sitting here and saying, well, they said this, so they must be right. Stop listening to what people are saying and stop looking at what they're doing.
Well, I mean, again, one of the things that I think reared its head during COVID more than anything is credentialism, and you had all these memes floating around, some guy jerking off on his toilet, it's like, I'm going to listen to this guy about science. It's like, well, no one is telling you to listen to that guy, for medical advice. What people are saying is there are some questions here that we would like to see answered. And the longer that you abstain from wanting to give us a straight answer, the more our suspicions arise. And a great example, this is a very nice segue into the Peter Hotez debacle. A great example is that. So Robert F. Kennedy appears on the Joe Rogan Experience. Many of the things that Robert F. Kennedy says, I disagree with. I mean, stuff like Wi-Fi causing cancer is there's no proof of that.
And he's also very much against like the MMR vaccines. And to me, it's like, no, I mean, look, could there be issues with those? Yes. But at the same time, measles, mumps, rubella are deadly diseases that will actually kill children if they get it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he's saying his piece. Then Peter Hotez pipes up and he says Spotify isn't even trying to curb Joe Rogan's mass, disinformation about vaccines, blah, blah. Joe Rogan says, I'll pay you $100,000 to come and debate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on my podcast. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not exactly the most like fleet of foot, fast talking. Like, he's not a very slick dude when he speaks. So you would think if you're afraid of debating somebody, maybe if this were like if it was somebody that had the personality of like Tucker Carlson, you could maybe go, okay, I understand why. If you are not a particularly extroverted person, whatever Peter Hotez's issue is, you wouldn't want to debate that person in public. But it would seem to me that it'd be a reasonably civil discussion between 2 people who claim that that have a position. The pot eventually goes up to I think at the end it was 2.53 million with people that have pledged money. Elon Musk had pledged money, Andrew Tate had pledged money, Patrick Bet-David had pledged money, and they turn around and said that Peter Hotez is being bullied and harassed, and that it's right that he doesn't debate Robert F. Kennedy. And you had multiple people. I mean, all of the usual suspects, Vox and all of the other trash, they all came out and they were like, it's the right thing. He shouldn't, he shouldn't debate them. And then the irony of it is, with Vox coming out in defense of it, Vox said very famously that, this is just a passing, it's basically just a passing cold. It's not going to be anything serious.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And again, it's like, if I had a point to prove and I knew I had all this stuff to back it up and knew I was right, I would be more than happy to be given a platform like that.
100%, especially with a $2.5 million sweetener to the charity of your choice.
Right, because even then, if you lose that argument, you still come out a winner,
1,000%.
So it's like he knows, though, he does not have what it takes to back it up and knows he will be made to look like a fool in front of the largest audience across all media. It literally is. And again, that also goes to show this silent majority, how many people are listening to Joe Rogan and listening to his podcast and listening to his interviews, and people want to sit there and, oh, he's this, he's that. Obviously there's some, and again, I'm not one to go with the herd, but in this particular case, obviously there's something there if you don't want all of these people to hear it. It's not about the listenership there in itself, but it's about how desperate people are to silence him because of how many people tune in and how many people he's influencing. If they thought what he was saying was bullshit, whatever, those people will figure it out. Or, we'll go on. We'll talk to those people. We'll knock some sense in them if they're that easily influenced. Again, there's just all of these disparities that when you take a step back and you look at the big picture, it raises a lot of alarm bells. And it gives you way more questions and answers. And in some ways does give you more clarity to say, this is bullshit, because you now cannot even back up what you were trying to sell me.
Well, again, another very clever thing that they've done is they have co-opted the phrase conspiracy theorist. And any person that mistrusts the government or has the sense to start piecing or putting pieces of the puzzle together and seeing patterns in the government's behavior, then they label those people a conspiracy theorist immediately. And because you're labeled a conspiracy theorist, you're a nutcase. You're again to the right of Alex Jones, and whatever you say should be disregarded. When again, for me, it's simple human behavior will always be simple human behavior, no matter whom it's coming from. And you made the exact right point. In Peter Hotez's case, if you're sure of what you're talking about, why on earth would you not debate it? If somebody wanted to debate me on something that I knew a lot about, I'd be more than fucking happy to. You don't have to pay $2.5 million to a debate. I'm going to be on the biggest platform, as you say, on in media right now. So if I want to raise my own public profile, it's the perfect setting to do so. And if I'm truly passionate about it, as Hotez is, I'm more than happy to have that conversation. But I don't know whether you saw the video that Peter Hotez or the compilation that somebody put together. Jimmy Dore had it on his show, where they were showing Hotez contradicting himself over the course of the last 3 years. I mean, the guy is a fucking crank and a lunatic.
I didn't see that.
A crank and a lunatic and a complete and utter scumbag, as far as I'm concerned. I'll send it to you.
I did see something similar with Fauci, actually. And
also
Fauci,
a scumbag.
Yeah. Oh, another absolute piece of shit, and another one who has blood on his hands is responsible for deaths and injuries for his vaccine push. And back in, during the AIDS crisis, he came out and was pushing this drug, saying that basically they had back-to-back reels of him back in like the 80s and 90s or whenever it was to now, giving the exact same jargon. It's proven to be safe and effective. This is the only treatment that can cure and prevent AIDS. And just basically reading the exact same script. And it was all just spliced with modern and current footage of him speaking about the COVID vaccine and giving the exact same jargon. And the exact same thing happened where the people who were taking this experimental drug and being told it's safe and effective, it's the only way to treat AIDS, died or had severe complications from it, to the point where it was a complete failure and taken off the market. But it's like, so how did you let this guy do this more than once? First of all. Second of all, why did it take so long? And again, even then, people are not acknowledging it. Yes, there's people who are smart enough to see this and say, holy shit, this is the exact same script that he read 30 years ago and used to also kill and harm an entire group of people and an entire community. it's out there, and people are still just like, listen to Dr. Fauci.
Yeah,
listen to the experts.
Right. Well,
trust the science.
So here's the we've gone pretty hard on old man Biden and stuff like that, but I mean, when it comes to Trump, I've got a stack of beefs with him as well.
Oh yeah,
specifically handing over the country to Fauci, and then having the nerve later on to act like he never did it. It's like, dude, you gave Fauci, or you pinned a medal on Fauci right as you were exiting the office.
Yep.
So that's one thing that his mind-melted followers can't seem to wrap their heads around either. They, much like with any ideologue, anybody, whether they're on the left or the right, that is so completely blind about ideology, they just choose to forget it. It's like inconsistencies in the Bible. Yeah, no, one animal of each a male female animal of each animal type on Noah's Ark, and that's how we repopulated the earth. No, it doesn't make sense, but the Bible says it. Same with Trump. It's like, he basically handed the country over to Fauci. Almost everything really demonstrably became worse under him as far as the social cohesion is concerned, especially in those last 2 years. But we'll forget about that. Oh, and he also pinned a medal on Fauci and is heavily pro-vaccine.
Right, and I'm kind of shocked. To be fair, he was pro-vaccine, but he wasn't as militant about pushing but he didn't rein in his goons either. So that was also a problem. It's shocking to me. It's not shocking to me that he's running again, but it's shocking to me how many people are like, yeah, I'm going to support him again. Like, was he better than what we are dealing with now? Yes. Was he great? No. He was also deeply flawed and also a big part of the problem in certain instances. And it's like, bring in someone else. Even like Robert Kennedy. On one hand, I definitely, compared to the rest of the, people running on the Democratic ticket, would support him a lot more. But he's also very flawed in the way that he thinks with a lot of these things, and says some real outrageous shit that makes no sense, and kind of shows me he's not fully lucid, not necessarily in the same way as Joe Biden, where he's full on demented, but just where he's like really kind of just out there. DeSantis, I really like him, but again, I can also sit here and pick out flaws. No one, and it's just crazy to me how many people can just be like, they're perfect, or really just completely bow to someone and just forget about the flaws.
Well, they buy very much into the cult of personality, which is so unbelievably. I mean, it's such a sheepish mentality to have, as you say, rather than assessing the candidate and going, okay, firstly have your own positions. This is what I think about this issue, this issue, this issue, this issue. What aligns, which candidate do I align to most closely? And then that's who you cast your vote for, because the reality of it is they're going to be absorbed into the Washington if we talk about America, they're going to be absorbed into the Washington apparatus. And, exactly as some people have said before, if it's a new president, at some point, somebody's going to have a conversation with them and say, this is how shit works. Right. The intelligentsia is most likely going to control you. They kind of try to write it off as deep state. But I mean, honestly, there's so much news now about things that the FBI have done, things that the CIA has done behind the scenes. If anyone doesn't believe that that's the case, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
There's been historic evidence of places like the CIA and the FBI being involved in very nefarious affairs. I mean, look at MK Ultra. It was a CIA program where people, again, will still say it's a conspiracy theory. It is literally an unclassified documents that are out there that prove that this happened, where they were drugging people and making people experimental. There's, that big... I don't remember the name of the guy, but it was one of the co-ops in the CIA who was drugged, and people think he committed suicide. But there's a lot of strong evidence suggesting that he was actually murdered because he was going to expose the operation. And I mean, even now with January 6th, there is so much evidence coming out that the FBI was involved in orchestrating that. Video evidence.
The video evidence of Ray Epps, who is an FBI plant. I mean, it was like the FBI guys that. So the attempted assassination, supposed assassination plot of Gretchen Whitmer.
The mayor of or governor of Michigan,
Yeah,
Gretchen.
and
Yes,
it was 12
orchestrated.
guys, and of the 12, only 2 of them were FBI.
Yep, the FBI orchestrated that as well. Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, that story went away so fast as soon as that came out. No one came out and apologized or rewrote their articles or told the truth. They just were like, we're going to ignore this and everyone will forget about it. And that's what's fucked up, is because people do forget about it. And then no one says, what happened with that? Or wait, no one there. It just goes away and they forget about it along with it. Which again is just kind of that cult personality and that cult mentality rather, of people who will just believe anything. And at the same time, it's like a convenience. It's like, well, if it's not right in front of me, I'm not going to worry about it. You have all these people right now talking about all these injustices here and, trans rights and abortion rights, yet at the same time choose to ignore what's happening with our neighbors in Haiti, which is right now being completely overrun by gangs, women, children being macheted to death, sexually assaulted, pregnant women being sexually assaulted to the point that they miscarry, horrible things. People now living on the streets, have no homes, living in shelters, have no running water, children dying constantly of severe like bacterial related diseases because they do not have access to clean food or water, dying of starvation because the gangs have overrun the country. These are neighbors. This is a country that America trades with and also depends on for our factories. We're just like, you know what, Canada, why don't you deal with this? Yeah. And again, like they want to act like things are so bad here, but don't want to take a step back and look at what's really happening in the world and don't want to help. That's for sure. And I'm not saying that, I'm some, great person, because what can I fucking do to help? Nothing. But at the same time, it drives me crazy that there are people who are capable of helping who would rather just like ignore it and pretend it's not like happening.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the only thing that you can do ultimately is focus on controlling what you can control. Being respectful to people around you. When I talk on the podcast, I often sound very opinionated, but hopefully people know I'm more than willing to listen to any counter arguments or anything that is well researched information that's data backed, that people can come to, or that people can raise and say, here's why I disagree with you. It's not a case of saying, I've never been one of those people that thinks you're a scumbag, because you disagree with me on something. I mean, if somebody sits here and wants to tell me that, Karl Marx is a great guy and Che Guevara was, wonderful and communism is great, that's a different conversation. That's an extreme. That would be no different. I would treat that no differently to somebody who sits here flapping around the Mein Kampf and says, that Hitler bloke was he had some, he had, he was a sharp dresser and he had some quite interesting ideas. That's just not, I wouldn't entertain that. But anything anything outside of those extremes, if whether it's about climate change, whether it's about anything else, I'm more than happy to talk about it. But at the same time, there's just, I feel like we're living in a world where we have the most amount, or we have the most widespread access to information, but we have some of the most ignorant people I think we've ever had in probably the history of humanity. I'm not one of those people that believes the world is worse now than it was. It certainly isn't. But in terms of people that are just completely and utterly ignorant, distracted by the fucking trash on their phones, the trash they see on TikTok, the garbage television that they watch, it's worse now than ever.
Absolutely. It is. It absolutely is. And it's sad how hard it is to find people who do think for themselves. And, in the same way, I'm always open to have a rational conversation about politics and about things like the vaccines and what's going on right now with, extreme, I don't even want to say transism because it bothers me, because again, I support trans people in the trans community. I just don't support the bad actors who are now trying to use that movement as a way to validate sexual predation. But it's just, I'm always willing to sit and have these conversations, but it's not possible 90% of the time, because the other side of it, they don't want to have a rational conversation. They just want to yell over you and threaten you and just stampede their point all over you. They don't want to sit there, listen to what you have to say, think about it, and say, and again, I will do that. I've definitely been in situations where I felt, I feel this way. And then whether it be a conversation with someone or something else I see that proves what I was thinking to be very different, I am willing to admit when I'm wrong and listen to the other side. And even maybe not even if I agree with it, kind of see why someone else can think that way. But it's becoming less possible to kind of have those types of conversations and revelations because no one wants to have an adult conversation. No one wants to have it just like, no one wants to have a real debate over it. They just want to scream and talk over you. They don't want to hear your point. They just want to make themselves heard. And if you don't agree, you can go fuck yourself and die. And again, I don't feel that way until you come at me with that disrespect and you tell me, then yes, I'm going to give that back to you. But just because you have a different opinion, I have plenty of friends and people in my life who we don't see eye to eye on a lot of these things. So, we don't talk about it. And that's fine too, because there's plenty of other stuff we can talk about. And we do have middle ground, whether that be music, whether that be some other pop culture, whether that just be like talking shit about people we don't like, whatever it is. To me, a good friend is a good friend, regardless of how they think. But I've also lost friends, not because I had a problem with the way they thought, but because they had a problem with the way I thought. And to me, it's like, well, you never really were my friend in the first place if you're more concerned about my political opinion than you are about my character and how I've been there for you on a personal level. And it's a shame. But again, I can't be upset about situations like that. And I'm not going to make a big scene or scream and cry and threaten people. It just is what it is. Let the bygones be bygones. But it's disturbing how many people will rather just steamroll all over you and threaten you and wish death upon you and your family than accept that you think a little differently.
Yeah. Well, again, if your de facto response to a disagreement is, "I hope you get raped," I mean, you can't possibly look yourself in the mirror and go, "Yeah, I'm the good guy. I'm the one that's on the right side of history." That's the thing. It's delusional. But you make an interesting point about character, and maybe this is a good point to kind of wrap it up on. We mentioned this on the Lost tapes, but I truly believe if you took two average people and they got stuck together in a lift for 12 hours, or they got were stranded out in the desert somewhere for 5 days or something like that, they would come out of there, no matter how different they are on the outside, they would be fast friends, because strip away all of the racket and all of the noise, that is kind of pumped into our brains every single day by social media and mainstream media, and it becomes about the person's character. And I think people forget how much value and how much beauty there is in actually getting to know a person's character and appreciating them for their character. And I hope something happens to change that, because I agree with you. You can feel the temperature on social media. People just don't want to. Before it was live and let live, or we agree to disagree, or whatever you want to call it. And now it is, if you disagree with me, you are essentially no longer a human being. You deserve to die. And that's where you start getting, this really toxic stuff, like celebrating somebody, somebody who got diagnosed with breast cancer. Or I mean, even again on the right, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg, finally kicked the bucket, you had people saying, yeah, she's, the ding dong, the witch is dead, and whatever else. It's like, that's somebody's grandmother.
Exactly. And also with her, she had been sitting on Supreme Court as a justice for so long that she actually did fight for real women's rights. And she did make a lot of positive changes. And to sit there and negate that, I mean, again, like, there's people now, like, with the abortion issue, for example, which we could go into, that's maybe another topic for another time. And it's like, there's people over sensationalize that. I'm very much pro-abortion, but at the same time, I do believe as an American that it is the state's rights to decide. I do not believe it's the federal right, because just as easily as the federal government can say this is fully legal, they can fully make it illegal. So to me, this is a good middle ground. And there's people who, I'm fighting for women's rights. And it's like, you're not really, though. You know what I mean? Like, you can just move. Like, you can, if that's
Well,
so strong,
that group, I would my criticism there would be very much the same as with some of the bad actors in the trans movement. Is you're not helping yourself when you're going on television or you're going on TikTok, talking about how wonderful it was to have your sixth abortion and celebrating abortion and glorifying it like it's this wonderful thing. I mean, I'm not a woman. I don't know the experience of somebody who has to endure an abortion, but I know women who've had abortions, and uniformly they have all told me it is absolutely terrible. They never ever want to go through it ever again in their entire life. So I think when you take the stance that it's this great thing, it's like you had celebrities saying you're not a real woman until you've had an abortion, stuff like that. It's like you're not helping yourself here.
And see, too, like, I've never had an abortion. You know why? It's called fucking birth control.
Yeah.
Like, and again, even all these stories of doctors aren't allowed to perform even if it's life-saving. I have a hard time believing that or understanding it, because doctors take a Hippocratic oath to do no harm. So if you as a living actual being are in danger, I really find it hard to believe that they're not going to do something. And if they don't, I feel that doctor can actually be subjected to.
I was about to say they could be sued for malpractice.
Yeah. So when people are like, oh, you can't get life-saving care, I believe they actually can. And while, yes, I'm sure there are doctors out there who are like, nah, nope, I'm not going to. Just the same as there's doctors out there who are going to do their job wrong in other instances and cause people to die by negligence or malpractice. I don't believe that's like I just feel like there's been small pockets of this happening, or people pretending it's happened, because there's definitely been like
I think it's closer to the latter, because I don't think there's a single one of the laws. I actually heard somebody talk about this the other day. There's not a single law, no matter how strict it is, even like I think it's 6 weeks in Florida. No matter how strict it is, it does exclude life-saving surgery for the bum. So if the mother is at risk, all bets are off the table.
Exactly.
But the funniest thing, though, are some of the women that go to these protests. Did you see that video of that fucking morbidly obese monster that stands? It's very, very. It's like a real memeable video. She stands screaming in this guy's face, "My choice, my choice, my choice." You're like, you don't need to worry. It's never going to be. You won't ever have to make that choice, because no amount of drugs, black magic, witchcraft, nothing's going to get the man to sleep with you. So
right, exactly. And again, practice safe sex. Like, we are fucking adults, people. Like, if you are not in a place to raise a baby such as I am, then make sure you do and take the measures you take not to have one and to prevent it without having to go to extreme measures like Plan B pills and abortion and stuff like that, where you can just prevent it. Like, condoms are cheap. Birth control actually here in the States is very cheap. And in some cases, your health insurance actually covers it for free. I had not had to pay for my birth control in years. And now that I do, it's like $30. You know what I mean? Like, it's not breaking the bank. It's like, there's so many ways to prevent it. And of course, if you're in a situation of rape or something like that, then you need to do what you have to do to protect yourself from that trauma. But it's just, again, I feel that you can be that there are laws that are going to allow you in that type of extreme situation. And if you find a doctor who says no, I'm sure you can find one who will still say yes, because it is mentally damaging and mentally harmful. Sorry, it's getting close to my dinner time now, so I'm starting to get
I was just about to say
brain fog.
We have probably run. We've probably given people enough of a dose to keep them talking and keep them thinking for a while. Absolute pleasure catching up with you as always, and we will definitely have to do it again at some point soon. And once again, I just want to say how grateful I am for the things you've done to help this podcast, but more than that, how excited I am to see things really picking up for you. It could not happen to somebody more deserving.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That means a lot. And likewise, I mean, seriously, from the day that you hit me up and everything that you've accomplished since then, I'm so proud of you. And I say it to everyone. There is no one who is going to do a better fucking interview than you. And I do mean that. I really do. Yeah.
Stay put, as we say. Adios to everybody. Let's quickly just discuss those offline topics. So I'm gonna
time to sell secrets. Now is where the real spicy talk happens.
Exactly. A huge thank you to Katy for her time. What an absolute blast catching up with her as always. And yes, things got very controversial, very spicy. But I know that the legions will have taken that conversation in the spirit in which it was proffered. Generally speaking, I know my audience well enough to know that you guys are very open-minded. Katy will definitely be back on the show, looking forward to hearing everybody's feedback on that chat. What you just listened to there was a track off the new Blackbraid record. The album, of course, is Blackbraid 2. The album is the song is called The Spirit Returns. And I have to say, very big step up, in my opinion, the second album versus the first. I was really looking forward to the first record and enjoyed it, but felt like it was slightly let down by the fact that I had been hoping to hear more of the main man and creator, Skaga Sauer, I believe is how I pronounce his stage name. I wanted to hear more of his Native American influence in the music, and I felt like he held back a little bit on that first album. So a competent black metal effort, the first album, but again, it could have been something more, and I feel like the second album really steps up from a confidence perspective. The songs are much more intricate. That Native American influence becomes more prominent, particularly in the three instrumentals on the record. There is a very, very American feel to it. And when I say American feel, I immediately think of a band like Cobalt, where when you listen to Norwegian black metal, there's this icy darkness to everything that you hear. Whereas with Cobalt, I always kind of got the sense of heat and, almost kind of a desert or, even sort of Appalachian environment. But I think you guys know what I mean. And I think Blackbraid 2 really nails it. As a matter of fact, when you hear a song like The Wolf That Guides the Hunter's Hand, even one of the longer tracks like Moss-Covered Bones on the Altar of the Moon, I absolutely hear that very distinct US black metal DNA running through it, and you can immediately start to make those connections to some of the very best that the scene has produced, like Cobalt. Bands typically go one of two ways, in my opinion, when it comes to their early records. You either get a band that does a fantastic debut record and then they really struggle to follow that up with the second album. And then you get bands that do a first album that kind of sees them trying to find their feet a little bit, and then on the second album, they really hit their straps. We had that with Necrosphere this year. We have, in my opinion, definitely got that with Blackbraid on Blackbraid 2. So great album. It is available on Bandcamp right now. I'll post the link in the description to the podcast. Make sure you go check it out. And who knows, at some point, I may well get Skaga Sauer on the podcast. Right now, my friends, if you're on Team Zuck in the coming Zuck versus Elon Musk cage fight, then it's time for you to get to step in, because this is my weekly news rant. All right, friends, as ever, we start on metalstorm.net, the best metal news website on all of the World Wide Web. First news headline, Nagelfar set to release their first, or re-release their first two albums. Nagelfar are a band that I have never quite enjoyed as much as maybe some of my friends and some of my peers, but my man Cheyenne had a very, very good interview with one of the members of Nagelfar over on Iblis Manifestations, his podcast. So if you haven't checked that out yet, well worth doing so. And I know that you all do enjoy when I have Cheyenne on the podcast. He and I are going to do a face-to-face at Reaperfest, so get ready for that. Just a reminder, in case anybody has forgotten, Reaperfest takes place on July the 28th and the 29th at the Hairy Dog in Derby. I will be there. So will Ralph Schmidt of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, and of course also Ultha. Ultha will be performing a set there. We've got the Ruins of Beverast, we've got Heathen Deity. There's going to be a couple of great bands there, and I am hopefully going to get at least 3, 4, maybe a few more face-to-face interviews recorded there. So most of August, if all goes to plan, should be awash with face-to-face interviews. But let's get back to the news. So Black Pestilence have shared the first single from their upcoming album. It says here, Canada's Black Pestilence return with their black and roll by sharing a new video for the brand new track, The Devil's Connection. That sounds a little bit like Twitter for Satanists. The Devil's Connection. It's taken from the band's upcoming album, Chaotic Wisdom, which is set for release on September the 8th, 2023. Check out the cover art, track list, and the official video for the new song below. I am almost certain that I heard the previous Black Pestilence record and dug it. But for whatever reason, I can't for the life of me remember what it was called, or even when I heard it. So, it may well have been kind of the Rambo First Blood of black metal, something that, you can sit back and enjoy, but it's not necessarily overly memorable. So anyways, I'm going to shut up. Let's hear what this sounds like. We're going to get to the chorus in just a second, but a couple of things. One, aesthetically, the band look as though they have they've adopted the old Bane look, if Bane were around, or if Batman: The Dark Knight Rises was shot during COVID times. I actually don't hate the motif of the music video, which is basically, if you're not watching this on YouTube, it's the vocalist walking around in a parking garage, and he's now at this point been joined by another member of the band. He is also dressed in some sort of Bane, COVID mask hybrid, and handed him a guitar, and shit's about to go down. The song I actually don't mind either. Very groovy, hence the name Black and Roll. That keyboard that they pop in there, not gonna lie, got a little bit of a new metal vibe to it. And I'm not sure, I'm not saying that to throw shade, but that was the first thing that I thought about. And on that topic, and it's also not throwing shade, the vocalist sounds a little bit like Des Fafara to me. When we get back into this, if you guys don't agree with what I'm saying, just give it a listen. There's a bit of a hint of Des Fafara there, and I don't mind Des, so I think I actually think his vocals are pretty good, to be honest with you, no matter what you may think of his music. But I'm enjoying this so far. So let's get back to it.
Vocation is the devil's connection, initiated by a sign, interrupted by the devil's connection, delirious frame of mind. Immerse oneself in the unknown, turn down the cannon that is set in stone. Enter now esoteric rites, bring me to the darkest heights. Sonic chaos is the only case, grass summoning in this mystic skies. Cut the chains from the damned soul, and free me from society's mold. Evocation is the devil's connection, initiated by a soul.
Definitely enough there to keep me interested for a to hear the whole thing. So it's a thumb up from me. I'm not sure they're ready to get 2 thumbs up. I mean, let's just square this away right now. In terms of the ranking on the news rant, the official ranking now is 1 thumbs up means not bad, I want to hear more. 2 thumbs up means excellent. Top notch, of course, the highest accolade you can get, and reserved for the choice few, beyond top notch. So anyway, right, let's carry on. We've got Outer Heaven, who have premiered another new track. We listened to Outer Heaven not long ago, and I remember I loved it. and I know quite a few of you guys loved it as well. So it says here, Death Metal Bringers Outer Heaven have premiered another new track from their upcoming album, Infinite Psychic Depths, which is set for release through Relapse Records on July 21st. The song, titled Pillars of Dust, is accompanied by a playthrough video, and it features a special guest appearance by Big Destroyer vocalist J.R. Hayes. That immediately sells me on this, and I do remember the video distinctly now because it had that like grainy VHS video vibe to it. Let's give this a listen. That sequence between the 40-second mark and about 55 seconds in, where it kind of goes to a mid-tempo, and you know the guitarist is letting the note ring a little bit. Rather, you guys, you'll know what I mean if you go back and listen to that clip. That really elevates the song. It takes this song from something that, you know, I could kind of take or leave to, you know, certainly meriting at least a 1 thumbs up. Vocals sound absolutely badass. You know, like I said with the previous video, they've carried on with a aesthetic. Yeah, I like that. Riffs sound fucking, you know, nasty. It is a great time to be a fan of death metal, my friends. I mean, this year alone, we have got new Cannibal Corpse coming out, new Incantation, potentially a new Dying Fetus album. They brought out that single, so you know, you never know. There may well be a full length. I would be very surprised if there's not a full length waiting in the wings. We've got Werewolves, we've got Cryptopsy, and I'm sure there's several that are slipping my mind right now. But I mean, yeah, you know, between that and the way that the year's gotten started death metal wise, if you are a fan of death metal right now, you are in your element. That is for goddamn sure. But yeah, so far I'm liking this. Right now we have moved solidly into 2 thumbs up territory, because they've taken, you know, the death metal vibe and they've added in a bit of slam and a bit of groove, and it just sounds fucking brilliant. Speaking of slam, that's another band that should be bringing out a new record. I don't know whether they're going to put it out this year, but I speak to Chris of Internal Bleeding on a fairly regular basis, and I think there should be a new Internal Bleeding record. If not before the end of the year, then certainly the beginning of next year. Which will also be great, because the last couple that they've done have been fucking fantastic. So, great job by the Outer Heaven men. Ringworm have premiered a new track. Wasn't so hot on the first single, and that is partly because I hold it to a standard that is exceedingly high that they set on previous records, so really it's their fault. But it says here, Cleveland extreme metalers Ringworm have delivered another taste of their upcoming 9th full-length album titled Seeing Through Fire. That's out on August the 18th from Nuclear Blast Records. The band released the song Thought Crimes, and the accompanying video can be watched below. Commenting on the song, vocalist Human Furnace said, Thought Crimes, speed, aggression, attack. All the things that come to mind sonically when I think of the song. It's a manic song. It makes you move. Lyrically, it's not a political song. It's about trying to have your own thoughts amongst an ocean of controlled marketing algorithms and forced tribalism. It's a natural emotional response to being sculpted, directed, and sometimes ordered to believe in one thing or another. Very much in line, ironically, to what Katy and I discussed. But we shan't go down that rabbit hole once again, although I do like the topic. Let's hear what Thought Crime sounds like. I think that is a vast improvement over the first single. It's way back to the stuff that I like that this band does. I played you guys that clip of Die Like a Pig when I listened to the first single. Another song that you must check out by Ringworm if you liked what you heard there. They've got a record called Justice Replaced by Revenge. The song is called House of Hell. Absolute fucking genius. Some of the most aggressive, just incendiary shit that you'll ever hear. And it certainly sounds like they're still plenty pissed off on yeah. Human Furnace sounds badass. You know, the band sound tight as hell. So yeah, I'm liking this. This is ideal gym music. So I'll tell you what else is ideal for the gym. An Into the Necrosphere tank top. Available right now on teespring.com. That guitar solo kind of came from nowhere, but again, not something that I'm mad at. I think one of the things that Ringworm does very well is that they keep their hardcore sensibilities well and truly intact. While doing the metal thing, and I like the fact that Nuclear Blast signed them. I'll tell you what. I would not be averse to getting Human Furnace on the podcast, so I may reach out to my connects and see what can be done in that regard. Okay, we're back on to another death metal band that has a ton of hype around it right now, Carnation. It says here Belgian death metalers Carnation have premiered a new single and music video for the song Maruta. It's taken from the band's upcoming album Cursed Mortality, which will be released on November the 3rd via Season of Mist. The video, directed by Jan Halen, is available for streaming right now. When they start a publicity campaign, how long is it? 4 months in advance of a record's release, you know they pretty confident about what that record might do for the label or what it might do for the band. So I know a fair few folks who have whose opinions I value very highly, who've really been looking forward to this. So I'm excited to hear what it sounds like. It says here the band said, we're back with our second single Maruta from our upcoming third album Cursed Mortality. To accentuate the diversity of the album, Maruta feels like it's the perfect single to follow up Cursed Mortality. The track is loaded with thrashy hooks, groovy beats, and punishing death metal riffs. Those who desire brutality, look no further. Maruta is here to crush your skull. We kick off with an epilepsy warning and a graphic content warning, so you know they're serious. There's something about this vocalist that reminds me a little bit of Michael Poulsen back when he was in a band called Dominus. Dominus put out a couple of albums, some better than others. The one they put out that I took particular notice of was a record called The First Nine, and it came out back in 1996. And I remember seeing Dancing with Magic, which was the music video that they released from the record. Very much kind of death and roll. But Michael sounded so fucking angry, and he had a similar, and I dare say, I hope the Carnation gentleman won't be upset at me saying this, but he had kind of a similar physique to this guy. So, quite, thin, gangly, but, fucking, he was wiry. In fight terms, you would refer to him as wiry. He had a similarly convincing aggression in his voice as well. And that's, I think, what I like the most about this song so far. I think the the vocalist sounds like he's fucking pissed off, and he leaves you convinced. The music itself is pretty good. I mean, they kind of do a good job of describing it here. There's thrashy hooks, it's groovy, it's aggressive. I kind of feel like there's a bit of, modern day, almost veering on deathcore levels of aggression or heaviness in the music. But overall, I can definitely fuck with this. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I like this, and I can see why Season of Mist are so excited about it. That's for sure. It definitely sounds like the kind of band you just get a sense is going to do very, very well. But for me, again, that vocalist is, as much as everybody else is, operating at a high tier, that vocalist to me is doing something pretty special there. Speaking of aggression, by the way, this weekend, UFC 290, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the fights for those of you guys that don't follow it, but I did feel I needed to bring this up because I've spoken about it on the podcast a couple of times now. Dricus du Plessis, my countryman, stomped a mud hole in the great Robert Whittaker, and he walked it dry. TKO in the second round. That prompted Israel Adesanya to jump up out of his seat, come rushing into the cage. He was clearly 3 sheets to the wind when he did so. Was dropping N-bombs like there was no tomorrow. started ranting on about he doesn't need 36 and me to show him where he comes from, and then 36 and me got downgraded to 26 and me. They're actually called 23 and me, but don't let that bother you. And that sets up a title fight now between Dricus and between Izzy. Now, I personally think Izzy beats him in a fight for a couple of reasons. I think Izzy's striking is just so vastly superior. I don't know if anybody in that division can compete with it. I know that Dricus has got a reasonable ground game, but if I were a betting man, my money would probably be on Izzy, even though you can bet your bottom dollar I will be cheering very loudly for Dricus. I will say, especially after this weekend, and probably intentionally so on Izzy's part, but if we were to use wrestling vernacular, Izzy went heel this weekend, that's for sure. I don't think that his antics in the cage really endeared him to a great many fans, and it was a sloppy heel turn. I think that was the thing I found most distasteful. I love heels. I cheer for guys like Colby Covington and Chael Sonnen because I know what they're doing, what they're doing intentionally, and it is a bit tongue in cheek. I mean, Jesus. I was cheering for, New Jack during the Smoky Mountain Wrestling days when he's, shouting shit, crazy shit like, shout out to my homeboy OJ and stuff like that. Izzy just, he doesn't suit the heel persona. There's natural heels. There's people that try to be heels and they just don't cut it. Now, that being said, of course, the racial malarkey came into it again. I will stress once more, just to kind of settle the debate, if there was any, about my thoughts around Dricus du Plessis and these accusations of him being a racist because he says he's a true African that people have hurled at him. I shared my views on this some time ago. It might even have been on an episode with Cheyenne. But look, I think that between me and some dork running an MMA blog in California, I know the face of true white supremacy and racism in South Africa, and I can tell you this much: no white supremacist from South Africa, no South African racist is going to stand in a cage with the world watching with a new South African flag draped around them. As far as South African history is concerned, like I've said to you guys, I grew up with some of these psychopaths and these fools. There are few sights more abhorrent to them than the quote-unquote new South African flag, so the post-apartheid flag that we adopted in 1994. So that, to me alone, that settles the debate. But far more eloquently than I could state it, I thought Dana White, president of the UFC, did a fantastic job of settling the debate around the racial element in the build-up to this fight, and I absolutely had to play it for you guys. So let's listen.
I know you say, hey, this is the fight business. People say nasty things, right? But the tension between those two and kind of the racial undertones and all those things, how do you...
What were the racial undertones?
Dricus says he's the real African fighter, and so, Israel dropped some N-words in there tonight.
So what was the racial... Who did? Who dropped the racial...
Israel was saying over and over, yeah.
He's black.
50 N-bombs in there.
Okay, he's black. Who gives a shit?
I was going to say, so you don't have any concern about the way the build-up, the tension between those two?
I could care less. This is the fight business. Israel Adesanya can say whatever he wants to say. Who gives a shit? Why, are people bitching about that?
Some people,
of course they are. Oh, fucking A. All right, got it. Yeah. Too fucking bad.
All right.
Yeah.
Last thing for me.
Look, I know Dana has his detractors. Like I've said, I've met him. I spoke to him for about 10 to 15 minutes way back at UFC 85 at the O2 Arena in London. I thought he was a stand-up guy when I met him. He was, I know 10 to 15 minutes is a short period of time to judge somebody's character. And, yes, there's been a bunch of stuff that people might, frown upon. But, he's in a very tough business, number one. Number two, the fact that he deemed it worth his time to chop it up with a fucking snot-nosed little... I think at the time I was in my 20s, I believe, or early 30s at most. Chop it up with a fucking snot-nosed little brat from South Africa. That says a lot. And he was a guy who was genuinely interested in what you had to say. Just a cool dude. And I'm strongly in support of the way that in the main. There's a couple of times where I would go, no, I wouldn't do it that way. But the way that he runs his business, I am in support of it. I think that folks that aren't, I would question whether they could do better. And that is, a separate conversation, but it's my big beef with a lot of MMA bloggers. Number one, they seem to fail, or they fail to recognize that their entire existence is thanks to this man and his efforts. And then secondly, what they also never ever do is say, right, here's the better way to do it. Oh, and by the way, here's the data points to prove that this is the better way to do it. Because when they use boxing, for example, as, people that are earning more money than the MMA fighters, okay, where's boxing today? How well is boxing doing relative to mixed martial arts? So that to me settles the debate. Anyway, speaking of debates, a debate has been raging between myself and my man Marco of Stellar Master Elite about the new Cryptopsy song. I'm not going to lie, this is not going to be a first listen impression. This is one I've probably listened to a good 4 or 5 times. I happen to really enjoy it. Marco says it's terrible. But I've been pretty lenient when it comes to Cryptopsy, I have to say. Probably more lenient than most people I know. I'm one of the few people that I am friends with or that I've spoken to who was down with the Mike DeSalvo era as much as I was down with the Lord Worm era. I loved Whisper Supremacy. I loved And Then You'll Beg. And then when Matt McGeachy joined the band, and they did, I think it was called The Unspoken King, where they had loads of clean vocals and stuff like that, I loved that record too. And I didn't set out to like it, you just go, I'm going to be different. I'm going to swim upstream on this one. I just thought it was fucking cool. And I thought, kudos to them for having the balls to put out a record like that. And then they put out those 2 EPs, like in 2011, 2012. Fantastic. So I've been waiting for them to do a full bore Cryptopsy record for a while now, and as luck would have it, they have announced their return. The new record is going to be called As Gomorrah Burns. It's their first full-length album in over a decade. It's due out on September the 8th through Nuclear Blast Records, so I'm definitely going to see if I can get somebody from the band on the show. The band has also revealed the record's first single, In Abeyance, and its accompanying video, which was directed by Chris Kells. Like I said, I have heard this before, but it would not be the news rant of the year of our Lord, 10th of July, 2023, without us at least listening to this. So I'm going to give it a quick play.
I was promised a utopia.
The more I listen to this, the more I love the way that they've incorporated, honest to goodness, almost traditional riffing into the insane manic style of technical death metal they do. Because one thing about this band, as great as they are technically, it is they can sometimes kind of let the technical side of things run away with them a little bit, and that comes at the detriment of the song. But what they've done really well with this song, and I truly hope it's going to be reflected across the rest of the record, there is a real kind of old school songwriting, I'm fucking talking over myself, yeah. Old school songwriting applied to what has been done here. Yes, they're still technical as all get out. I mean, Flo, I don't know how old the dude is, but he just gets fucking better and better. Everybody is playing at an elite level, but there's instantly parts of this that's more memorable than, the typical tech death metal band. And not just memorable for the fact that these guys know their instruments. So that I really like. And then Matt Magachy, to me, I think he's fantastic as a vocalist. I mean, he won me over on The Unspoken King. I have been a considerable fan of his pretty much through throughout his time in Cryptopsy, and of course, he did one of my favorite vocal sequences in all of death metal history on the death metal EP by Werewolves, the version of I Hate Therefore I Am that's on there, where he does the I waited years for the burning to start bit. I mean, if you don't like that, then you can fuck off. So anyway, it says here, commenting on the impending record, vocalist Matt Magachy says, I'm excited to finally unveil As Gomorrah Burns. It's an album that we've been crafting for the past 5 years, a meticulous endeavor that we're proud of. It's the perfect medley of old school Cryptopsy with a few modern twists. We've leaned heavily into the grooves and let some of the riffs breathe just a little more than we have on the past few releases. I'm really stoked about the new era of Cryptopsy. Magachy adds about the new single, In Abeyance is conceptually about feeling isolated while being immersed in a new environment. The hunt for a sense of belonging while mourning a previous life. Musically, it's a slap in the face. It's a banger that appears to be straightforward, yet remains ultra complex. Great description. I think he's spot on. And this, to me, is worthy of a top-notch accolade. I like the music video as well, by the way. Very old school. None of the old man in their underwear, beef. Ideas, the narratives that I've seen floating about of late. I'm a big fan of this. I really can't say anything bad about it whatsoever, and I'm really, really looking forward to hearing the whole thing when it comes out. Carnifex have announced a new album and premiered the title track off said album. It says here, deathcore act Carnifex have returned with their 9th full-length studio album entitled Necromantium, out on October the 6th via Nuclear Blast Records. They have got their fucking plates full with new releases, that's for sure. I mean, how many Nuclear Blast releases have we spoken about in the last, 20 minutes alone? Anyway, it says here the recording process took place over the course of several weeks with producer Jason Sukov in Florida, mastered by Mark Lewis in Nashville, Tennessee. The album was also co-produced by vocalist Scott Ian Lewis and drummer Sean Cameron. The cover artwork was designed by comic artist E.M. Gist. The band also revealed the title track with a music video directed by Jim Laveau and Tony Aguilera. Scott Ian Lewis commented, Necromantium is a truly special album that all of us in the band already love. Spend some time in conversation with the other side of life. Enter the Necromantium. Really how that should have, that sounded in my head, because whatever the next couple of vowels or syllables are, it always comes out the same. Necromantium. So, after, of course, Necromantia. Carnifex, of all of the deathcore bands that are floating around, and you guys know my thoughts on this, it's never really been a subgenre I've been particularly into. There are a couple of bands I think that do it very well, and even those bands you could argue have kind of moved away from it. I like Job for a Cowboy. I like Despised Icon very much. I thought the last Thy Art Is Murder single that they put out was very cool. But for the most part, it's just it's a very predictable genre to me. And because it's predictable, as much as it's like super heavy, like almost over the top heavy, it never has that sense of menace and that sense of danger that I love in music. But Carnifex, I would say, of all of those bands, they've always been kind of in the upper crust. So, how this is going to sound, I have no idea. We're about to find out. I'll tell you something, it helps that somebody in this band is clearly a big fan of black metal, because those opening melodies, discount the symphony stuff, because it's very hit or miss for me, those. I think it works well in certain bands, in other bands it just sounds like it's tacked on. I wouldn't say it sounds tacked on here, but it also doesn't really add or detract from the song in any way for me, so I'm just kind of indifferent towards it. But when the song actually starts, it does sound very, very cool, and I think the black metal influence comes through very clearly. And the way the band are playing along with that and still incorporating, the typical staples of a deathcore song, the chugs, the super deep vocals, I think it works. It kind of in a way that the Thy Art Is Murder track worked for me. There's enough going on here to keep me interested, versus the myriad other so-called slam bands and deathcore bands that are around that, just again, it just sounds like, the same old shit regurgitated over and over again. There's some character and some personality here. And again, second time I'm going to shout out a vocalist on today's segment. This gentleman sounds fucking hard as shit. Don't mess with Scott Ian Lewis, because if he punches as hard as he growls, your ass is grass. Now there, the symphony stuff actually sounds better, like the classical instrumentation. I think it actually works a lot better there than, as the intro to the song. And if I were producing that, I might even have saved it for that rather than bring it in the intro, because if you bring it in, at 1 minute 30 or whatever, wherever we are right now, then it comes as a bit of a swerve and a bit of a surprise. But that right there, thumbs up for me. 2 thumbs up, as a matter of fact. I can't remember whether Nuclear Blast put out their previous record, but I can definitely see why they might have been interested in them. I think this is very cool. It eschews the trappings of traditional death metal. It is enjoyable. It's catchy. It's memorable. Heavy as fuck. I can fuck with that any day of the week, twice on Sundays. Blackbraid sophomore album available for streaming in full. I did want to mention this because no sooner had Katy and I completed our Titanic conversation, then the internet nitwits, particularly the Twitter nitwits, started bleating about how Blackbraid apparently is an industry plant. So, which is easily the dumbest shit I have heard in my entire life. I mean, firstly, what is this black metal industry? Who runs it? Where did it come from? Etc. etc. But that aside, the guy is unsigned. His wife, as far as I know, did the actual album cover design and everything else. I mean, this band is as independent as they come. The reason why he's getting a lot of attention is because he has a very competent publicist. We spoke to her for the last 2 hours. So to turn around and say, it's an industry plant, I mean, that is just the fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. And of course, there was a small minority of people that also had to obviously dip into the old Nazi tropes and say how, I don't know if they have a guitarist who knows someone who was friends with someone who once went to the toilet with someone who used to play in Horner, but it's some fucking contrived bullshit. And now, of course, Blackbraid on the blacklist. The funny thing is you go into these people's Twitter accounts and you check out, some of the other stuff they're talking about, and it's so pathetic and so predictable. It's always the same old garbage in their bio. It's like they follow a specific template that ticks all the boxes of every single woke cause around. One of the things that you'll almost always find is either Marxist, socialist, or communist. 3 pieces of trash cut from the same cloth. And then, they'll be posting all sorts of crap. One guy was posting about how, have you ever thought, I mean, it's always in this condescending fashion as well, right? Have you ever thought that maybe there aren't any victims of communism, just victims of the brutal sanctions against communist countries? Yeah, because old Stalin said, you know what, because these terrible Americans and English people are mean to me, I'm going to send 20 million of my people to the gulags to die. So, I mean, that is complete and utter insanity. But then the other thing is, invariably when some of these naysayers are men, they also fall into that category of man that I detest perhaps more than anything in the world. And that category, simps. I mean, I am, reasonably open with my affections. I make no bones about the fact that I dearly love my fiancée, and, we've just celebrated our 5-year anniversary together. It was a wonderful time. By the way, we went to Hawksmoor, had a fucking fantastic meal that included a bone marrow and steak pie. That honestly, if you've never been to London and you want to know what's the one thing I need to eat when I'm there, that is what you need to eat. Steak and bone marrow pie from Hawksmoor. Now, that aside, what I don't do is tweet how I miss you so much, even though you were just here this morning, and all sorts of other pathetic shit that fucking weakling guys like that do, and then they wonder why their girlfriends cheat on them. And when their girlfriends do cheat on them, then they're okay with it because she needed her space. So, it comes back to what I said about the so-called metal community. The community we have, the Legion, the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, that's my community. But this wider community of fucking idiots, I have nothing in common with them. Nothing. It's by coincidence that we happen to listen to the same music, but I certainly don't share any sort of life aspiration, no sort of moral code, no sort of ethics, no nothing with them otherwise. Zero. And yes, I still abide by what I said to Katy. Maybe if if me and this, the one simp in particular that I'm thinking about, I shan't obviously name the guy, but maybe if he and I had we were stranded together on a desert island for 3 days, we had to kind of talk to each other to stay sane. Maybe we could be friends. Maybe we could find some things that maybe we do share. I'd give him a few slaps, to get the simping out of him. But yeah. Just in the main, if I were going to identify with any sort of tribe or any sort of community, it's certainly not going to be these fucking idiots. Never. Not in a million years. I'd sooner identify with a fucking table. I have more in common with this mug than I have with that guy. Anyway, that rant over. It is the news rant after all. The Night Eternal, new video streaming. Following the release of In Tartarus back in May, here's now the second single of the Night Eternal's upcoming record, Fatale. The video for Prince of Darkness, directed by Robert Peel and edited by Leonard Koch, is available for streaming below. The German heavy metal act will have their new album released on the 14th of July via Van Records. Normally, German heavy metal is a phrase that would make me do a wide berth. But Van Records, excellent, obviously. On their label, they have got Ruins of Beverast, they've got King Dude, they've got a bunch of great bands. So normally, when they have signed any band, I'm instantly interested. Never heard of the Night Eternal before, but let's give it a listen. I just had a quick gander while they was playing on Metal Archives to see who their vocalist is. It's somebody named Ricardo. It doesn't look like he's... Actually, Ricardo Baum. He was also in a band called Vortmort, who I also don't know. But I got to say, in him, they've got quite the asset. I mean, that guy's voice is fucking excellent. And actually, I don't hate the music either. This is not the kind of music I would choose to listen to, you know, that would be my first choice at any point. Yeah, this is not bad at all. Like, this is the kind of thing that I can see, you know, going down really well in front of a, crowd that's there to see Ghost. Maybe even Misfits, you know, something like that. As a matter of fact, I just want to say I was extremely jealous of Mike Hill and Mike Scandado, because I saw that they had watched Misfits over the weekend, and then I saw that Glenn and Co. performed my favorite Misfits song of all time, Come Back, which I don't think that they've ever really done. Yeah, I was green with envy. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, as far as this is concerned, I'm digging it. So let's get back to it. You know what else this reminds me of? Night Cobra, which features Christian of Necrosphere, and also a great band. As a matter of fact, those two would be sensational touring mates. So, yeah, I like that very much. Okay, let's do maybe one or two more. And then I want to go and check out the Metal Sucks Best of 2023 so far list and see what they've got on there. One headline here that I'm definitely interested in: Rotting Christ in the studio recording new album. Greek black metal pioneers Rotting Christ have announced that they are currently in the studio for the recording of their 15th studio album. The new offering is set for release via Season of Mist in early 2024. Watch the video of the announcement below and get a small taste of the music. The band shared on social media: "Greetings to all our brothers and sisters. We hail you all from the Deva Sound Studios in Athens, where we are currently recording our 15th album. Stay tuned for updates and hope we are coming up with another soulful creation. Until next time, keep the true metal spirit alive." That mockery, by the way, is not mockery. It's me endearingly imitating Sakis, because he is a fucking absolute badass. Obviously, I had him on the podcast last year. I've met him a couple of times prior to that. What a dude. One of the best guys in extreme music by far, and Rotting Christ are elite of the elite as far as I'm concerned. Yes, their last record was not quite as good, as the ones that preceded it. But that doesn't matter because they're one of those rare bands that even when they're not, firing on every single cylinder, they're still amongst the best of the best. But let's check out this video.
Hello there, this is Akis from Rotting Christ, and I'm here with the guys in Deva Sound Studios in Athens, recording our upcoming album that will be released from Season of Mist very early 2024. We are in the middle of the process, and I can promise that will be a hell of an album. Stay updated and always be true to your own spirit, brothers and sisters. Non-fucking Serbian.
Sounds promising. I tell you what, though, I don't want this to be just like an extension of the Sakistala solo stuff, which was fine. But for me, the best, the prime Rotting Christ is Thugonia, that came out in 2007. Ailo followed it up in 2010. A Greek title that slips my mind, and I can't remember I can't remember what it was, but you guys know the album I'm talking about. It came out in 2013, and then Rituals in 2016 was kind of a coda to those three records. But those three albums that I just mentioned now, that to me is like peak Rotting Christ, with maybe the exception of Triarchy of the Lost Lovers. I know a lot of people are big fans of the earlier stuff, Thy Mighty Contract and On Servium, both great records too. But for me, personally, Triarchy of the Lost Lovers and then those albums I just mentioned now, that is Rotting Christ at their absolute best. The thing I love the most about those albums, about Thugonia, Ailo, it had this feeling that you were in the middle of a war, like a Spartan war, and it sounded like nothing else. And no one has ever made anything that sounds like that since. No one had made anything that sounded like that before. And I kind of feel like with the Heretics, even though it had some fantastic songs, it did get away from that a little bit too much. And it took away from that vibe that I got from those records. But anyway, we'll see what they do. I'm pretty confident that whatever they come up with next is going to be good. All right, let's do this one, and then let's head over to Metal Sucks. So Panopticon have got a new album coming, and they've revealed their first track. It says here, atmospheric black metal project Panopticon just made available online a brand new track entitled Cedar Skeletons. It's going to be part of the band's forthcoming album, The Rime of Memory, which is expected to be released in late autumn with pre-orders starting around the end of summer. They've got a Bandcamp embedded player there, so let's see if I can find it on YouTube. Panopticon, I can take or leave, but I'm always open to being persuaded otherwise. So let's give Cedar Skeletons a quick spin. My friends, that is fucking superb. I know I've not been the biggest Panopticon nut hugger over the years, but that is magnificent. I hear the hints of Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk by Emperor in there. I hear hints of Wolves of the Throne Room, but it's really all wrapped up in something that is, really self-contained and unique. I did say let's give that a quick listen. It's a 16-minute song, so we'll jump to the middle part of the song in a second and hear where it heads to. But it says here, Mastermind Austin Lund commented, the track is from the new album The Rhyme of Memory. It features guest vocalist by my friend Victor Sanchez, and a choir comprised of many of my collaborators. He lists them down here. We're not going to bother with that. Talking about everybody that contributed to it. This is being released today because so many of you wrote the county commissioner to advocate for the continued permit issuing for Fire in the Mountains, which is one of the best outdoor metal festivals in the world. So thank you so much. I hope you'll enjoy the song, and thank you again. Pre-orders for our album will be coming towards the end of summer, and expect a release right around when the snow returns to northern Minnesota, late fall. We spoke about upcoming death metal albums earlier, but good God, is it stacked for black metal. I mean, we've got Shining, we've got Marduk, Panopticon you can add to that list, we've got Oranzi Pazuzu, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, just a fucking boatload of stuff. So a lot to get very, very, very excited about. And as I said, I've never been the biggest Panopticon fan, but this really is fucking awesome. So let me jump to the 8-minute mark, because as I said, it is a long one. So we'll hear where it's gotten to by this point. Very nice layering of melodies there. I mean, even when they are slowing down and they're setting atmosphere, there's still some density and some complexity there. It's not just, it's not just kind of a simple guitar solo or something like that. So, no, add this to the list of records that I am very, very much looking forward to hearing. Okay, metal sucks. Never in my life did I think that I would go to this website of Own Free Will again. After, I think I listened to about 2 or 3 episodes of the Chuck and Godless podcast, that turned me off the website forever. In addition to the many other exposés of Marduk and other bands that I like. But I have been curious to see what they put on this list. The best metal albums of 2023 so far. They say, don't look now, but half of the year has already passed us by. Don't know how or when that happened, but here we are. Thankfully, 2023 has given us a metric assload of killer tunes from a variety of bands representing a huge range of genres. Blah, 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 blah. We then move on to many of their critically acclaimed writers. I believe Kim Kelly used to write for them as well, but she's now busy spreading communist propaganda around the United States. Not my kind of person. But anyway, M Shadows, I don't know whether M Shadows is a communist, but they certainly are a fan of the band Bandit. The album that they liked most is Bandit's Siege of Self. It says here, on their first full-length album, East Coast trio Bandit expand their horizon, mixing in elements of death metal and metallic hardcore into their sound. If Pig Destroyer, with more breakdowns and mastered by Colin Marston, sounds appealing, Siege of Self is the record for you. Never heard Bandit, but love me some Pig Destroyer, so let's hear this. We kind of jumped in there at the tail end of a song because he put up the whole album into the embedded player. It's not bad. It's not Pig Destroyer, though. I mean, I think one of the things with Pig Destroyer that is so cool is almost all of their songs always has something memorable in. It's chaos, carnage, frenetic speed, etc. I mean, some songs just kind of go by in a blur. But then they'll always have this like one moment that you just build up to, and it's always fucking hard, badass. I mean, they had that all over Bookburner, Phantom Limb, Terrifier, especially on Terrifier. I mean, I even like Headcage, which wasn't everybody's cup of tea. But they are certainly due for a new record. Headcage came out in 2018. And I remember that because I was listening to it in the car when Paige and I were off on our first trip together to the backwoods seaside town of Brighton. All right, Kenny Sticky, he's got Immortals War Against All. Now, I'm going to strongly say that if black metal is your thing, then if I had to do right now, if the line were drawn under 2023, then I'm not sure Immortal makes it into the top 30. It's not a bad record, but it's not the best record of the year so far, that's for sure. But here's a thought. Let's very quickly do an impromptu tiering of Immortal. Inspired, of course, by Metal Trenches, which is a great website if you're looking to, or not website, sorry, YouTube channel. If you're looking to pass, 10, 15 minutes, being reasonably entertained. So we go S tier being the best. We've got A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier. Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism, C tier. Pure Holocaust, S tier. Battles in the North, S tier. Also God tier, one of the best black metal albums to ever be produced by humans. Blizzard Beasts, C tier. At the Heart of Winter, S tier. Damned in Black, B tier. Sons of Northern Darkness, B tier. All Shall Fall, C tier. Northern Chaos Gods, C tier. War Against All, D tier. Actually, no, C tier. Let's be fair. I mean, like I said, I did say it's a reasonably listenable record, but it's not significantly better than Northern Chaos Gods. It's just not anything that's really my vibe. Ryan Dyer has got Vengeful Spectre as his album. Now, Vengeful Spectre I do remember because Pest Productions, a record label out of China, who put out the Utkana debut record, they had this band, and I remember exchanging messages with the dude from Pest Productions. This was a band he was particularly high on, understandably so, because it's a Chinese band. So it says here, if you've been following the Chinese black metal scene during the past few years, Vengeful Spectre's self-titled debut album from 2020 was likely in your rotation and quite possibly made your own best-of list. The Shantou Gandong-based band, featuring Frozen Moon vocalist Fan Bo, represents an era of seamlessly blending traditional Chinese folk elements with instruments like the pipa and suna, with harsh, though crystal clear produced black metal. Their second record, the second part of a trilogy, keeps the musical elements from the first while also including artwork by the soon-to-be legendary Gan Yang, who sets the mood even before pressing the play button. Tracks like Storming Insurrection of War offer innovation present in modern-day Chinese black metal, which could become a trend in the scene if the rest of the world were to tune in. So I guess Vengeful Spectres are also industry plants. If that risks tainting the sound, though, maybe bands like Vengeful Spectre should stay rather obscure. I do remember liking that Vengeful Spectre record, so let's hear what this sounds like. that fill a machine gun sample? Because it sounds fucking hard if it is. I love it. So far, I've got to say, this is S tier. That is fucking brilliant. Brilliant. It's like, I love the Chinese instrumentation, but then when the song gets heavy and nasty, Jesus Christ, do they take this to the next level. I mean, that vocalist sounds like he is possessed of many devils. And I mean, just every single thing about this, I just love. Production sounds great. The riffing is fucking badass. It's quite catchy as well. But good god damn, this flew under my radar. And most definitely deserves a far deeper dive than I've given Vengeful Spectre in the past. Also, I think it'd be great to get someone from Vengeful Spectre on the podcast. That might be interesting. But anyway, I'm going to give this another minute. But so far, I am absolutely fucking blown away. I'm telling you, if the rest of the record sounds like this, we've got a definite contender for the top 10 of 2023. This is masterful. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. I will listen to the whole album and I will get back to you guys and let you know what I think, but that's fantastic. Right, Spliff Burton. His favorite album of the year is The Good Ship Lollipop by Venom's Concept. Not a bad choice. Brie Helmstad, Dodheim's Guard, Black Medium Current, Nathan Glover and Marco of Stellar Master Elite both are raving about this record to me, and I rate both of their opinions extremely highly. 9.999 times out of 10 they are bang on. I've just not had the time to really spend with this album that I should. Like, this is not an album I think you can just put on in the background and just be done with it. So I that's another one I promise, I vow to spend some time with. Mandy Scythe is her favorite album is Creeping Death's Boundless Domain. Meh. Petr Spajic, Sermon of Golden Verse. He says, yeah, as I get older every year, I tell myself this is the year I'm finally going to understand Opeth's post-Watershed era. Although that has not happened yet, this new Sermon album makes me feel like I'm getting closer. It won't make me get closer, because post-Watershed Opeth is fucking shite. And Hesher Keenan, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. The album is Petro-Dragonic Apocalypse. I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm looking for something to finish off with. So let's have a quick gander and see what might be on here. I'll tell you what I'm interested in hearing. And there we go. As if by magic. I had spotted the other day and I know this isn't black metal or death metal, but it's my show and my segment, so I'll do whatever the fuck I want. I'd spotted an article the other day about a band called Better Lovers that features folks from Dillinger Escape Plan and Every Time I Die. They've dropped a surprise EP overnight. I didn't even hear the EP. The EP seems to be called 30 Under 13. It features Greg Puciato. I'm a huge fan. It also has Fit for an Autopsy's Will Putney and Every Time I Die members Jordan Buckley, Clayton Holyoke, and Stephen Makishi. And I was wrong that that's actually not the EP's name. The EP's name is God Made an Animal, and the song is called 30 Under 13. But anyway, I'm going to shut the fuck up and let's hear what this sounds like.
How far are you willing to reach? While you're covering outcomes that you cannot achieve. Now you're on a mission, but you won't complete. Saying hold on to me, trying to let go of me, of what you'll never be. You'll hang yourself on that leash. Moral mind of a fool that never learns. You're fucking nothing to me. Only not because I made you so. Only not because I made you. Only not because of me. So don't you forget. You're only a fraction of my past. And now you're gone. So hang yourself on that leash.
Here's a question. If somebody told you that is the new Dillinger Escape Plan, they've gotten back together, this is what their new music sounds like, would you believe them? If the answer to that question is no, you're a fucking liar. It's not as manic as Dillinger Escape Plan, but it's not a million miles away from Dillinger Escape Plan either. And I have no problem with that because I think that's fucking great. I'm a bit partial to Greg Puciato. I love his solo album. I fucking love Dillinger Escape Plan. And you know, I'm not surprised I'm enjoying this. Very aggressive. I'd be curious to hear what the rest of the EP sounds like, so that's also going onto the list. But yeah, so far so good.
Oh, in your mind there's a fool that never learns. You're fucking nothing to me. Only now because I made you so. Are you overlooked now? No one cares when you speak. While you're disappearing, where you wanna be seen. So you wanna be seen, but you feel no more. 30 under 13. 30 under 13.
I'm down with that. I love it. Might not be everybody's cup of tea, but that doesn't matter because I think it is fucking great. And folks, on that note, I'm going to wrap up the news rant for this week. Next week, I'll be back with Sheriff Mike Scandado and Sensei Mike Hill doing the much anticipated, somewhat delayed, mostly my fault, 666 countdown celebrating our favorite 90s death metal albums. Almost certain to feature on that list will be Morbid Angel, which is why, to get you all in the mood for that, I'm going to be playing out with one of the deepest of deep cuts, Invocation of the Continual One, off of the fantastic Formulas Fatal to the Flesh album. And I will wish all of you a Godspeed and farewell. Thank you very much to my guest this week. Thank you very much to all of you guys for checking the show out till the very end. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.